Chapter 100. As soon as Lu Ping left, several cultivators followed him to the front of the cave dwelling. Looking at the cave dwelling that had obviously been searched once, everyone looked at each other. After a while, a cultivator hesitantly said, "If I'm not mistaken, this should be the cave dwelling of a core forging enlightened master, right?" Everyone was silent for a while, then a cultivator said, "It seems so." Another cultivator said, "This place is not far from the mountain stream of Fei Ling Peak. Could it be the one who Zhenling?" The first cultivator who spoke nodded and said, "It should be him. Maybe there are other people who Zhenling. If he is alone, it is too outrageous." Everyone finally found a reasonable explanation. Unwilling to give up, they went back to the cave dwelling to have a look. Sure enough, they harvested some spirit herbs and spirit materials. Lu Ping's search was too hasty. He didn't want to let others know that he had obtained the core forging realm cave dwelling alone, so he just took away the things that caught his eye. There were some scattered spirit herbs, spirit pills, spirit materials, and low-grade magic tools, but Lu Ping didn't care about them. When he reached the top of the mountain, Lu Ping found 2 more spirit herb gardens. Moreover, both the area and the quality of the spirit herbs were high. Lu Ping collected a total of 500 500-year-old spirit herbs and 41,000-year-old spirit herbs. At this time, Lu Ping was getting closer and closer to the top of the mountain. There were many sounds of fighting on the top of the mountain. There were also many sounds of spells and magic tools attacking the array. Obviously, the cultivators on the top of the mountain had made a major discovery, so they were competing with each other. Naturally, Lu Ping wouldn't miss it. When Lu Ping reached the top of the mountain, the first thing he noticed was not the fighting between the cultivators, but a kind of heroic atmosphere on the top of Fei Ling Peak. The whole top of the mountain was no longer a mountain top, but a world with a radius of thousands of feet. It was uneven and dusty. This was the main battlefield of the battle between the Dharma manifestation stage cultivators and Laozu. The whole Fei Ling Peak was forcibly destroyed by spells, resulting in its current appearance. This was the biggest reason why the spirit vein of Fei Ling Peak was beaten into a large spirit vein. At this time, the top of the mountain had already become the battlefield of the cultivators. The flying dust had covered everything in front of him. Everything within 10 feet was blurred, so he could only rely on his divine sense to judge the surrounding situation. Lu Ping spread out his divine sense, and every movement within a radius of 60 feet appeared in Lu Ping's mind. Hundreds of feet ahead, there seemed to be a rainbow-like light looming in the layers of dust. The stream on Fei Ling Peak originated from this peak. Lu Ping walked along the stream towards the center of the peak. The vision on both sides of the stream was relatively good. Lu Ping gradually found that the spiritual qi in the stream was gradually getting richer. It seemed that he was already close to the main vein of the legendary large spirit vein. Among the flying dust, there were magic weapons attacking from both sides of the stream from time to time, but they were all blocked by Lu Ping's Soaring Wings dual swords. Now was not the time to hold back. In a situation where the enemy's situation was unknown, Lu Ping could easily be besieged. Fortunately, Lu Ping's pair of high-grade flying swords had left a deep impression on people when he broke the formation at the foot of Fei Ling Peak. When the cultivators who attacked with magic weapons saw this pair of gorgeous Soaring Wings swords, they immediately gave up. Lu Ping advanced another 1,000 feet. This time, no cultivators came to provoke him. However, through his divine sense, Lu Ping could faintly sense that there were 2 groups of cultivators on both sides of the stream that had gathered in the direction he was going. There were 5 to 7 people on each side. It seemed that he was still being targeted. Lu Ping smiled bitterly. Fortunately, the cultivators on both sides did not know that his divine sense had already discovered them. Since that was the case, he could only make the first move and gain the upper hand. Lu Ping stretched out his left hand and, landslide, flew out from the ring on his left hand's ring finger. Since he had a storage ring with a larger and more convenient capacity, Lu Ping naturally would not use a storage pouch. Instead, he put all of the spirit herbs, spirit ores, spirit materials, and magic weapons that he did not use on Fei Ling Island into a storage pouch. As for Lu Ping's own cultivation needs, daily use, and precious items, he put them in his storage ring and carried them with him. Landslide whistled out and smashed down on the 6 people on the left side of the stream with the pressure of empty tie. Everyone immediately cried out in alarm. Where did this magic weapon come from? It's a high-grade magic weapon. Who is it? Who is plotting against me? Lu Ping did not care about this. As Landslide pressed down, his soaring wings swords slashed out. When the 6 people on the left side of the stream worked together to block Landslide with great difficulty, the male and female swords had already slashed at their waists. The 6 people immediately cried out, "It's that brat Zhenling. You're courting death. 1 against 6? Aya, my arm. Help. Spare me. In the blink of an eye, 3 out of the 6 people on the left side of the stream had lost their lives in Lu Ping's divine sense. 1 lost an arm, and the other 2 escaped after being severely injured by Landslide. There were already 5 people gathered on the right side of the stream. When they heard the curses from the other side of the stream, they clearly hesitated for a moment. However, someone said something and shouted, and 5 magic weapons flew towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping used 2 high-grade magic weapons in one go, and it had already taken up more than half of his divine sense. Fortunately, before Lu Ping made his move, he discovered through his divine sense that 4 of the 6 people on the left side of the stream were cultivators from Xianling's sect, which was why he attacked them first. Among the 5 people on the right side of the stream, only 2 were cultivators from Hai Yin sect and Shui Yin Pavilion. The rest were cultivators from other sects and were slightly weaker. Lu Ping threw out 5 water shield talismans in one go and blocked the 5 magic weapons. The 2 high-grade magic weapons had already returned to him. After retrieving Landslide, the soaring winged swords had already rushed over. The 5 cultivators on the right side immediately felt that something was wrong and wanted to escape. Lu Ping's soaring winged swords chased after them and only killed 1 Shui Yin Pavilion cultivator. Lu Ping went to the left side of the stream and picked up the 3 storage pouches on the ground. When he returned to the right side of the stream, De Bao had already returned with the Shui Yin Pavilion cultivator's storage pouch in his mouth. The spiritual herbs in the 4 storage pouches were obviously much more than the harvest on the spiritual herb mountain. There were more than 2,400 stalks of 500-year-old spiritual herbs and 23 stalks of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. The spirit stones were much more insignificant now, only 10,000 spirit stones. Lu Ping was too lazy to count the elixirs and other miscellaneous items. Lu Ping continued to move along the riverbank. This time, no cultivators came looking for trouble with Lu Ping. Finally, when he was about to reach the source of the stream, Lu Ping clearly saw that the rainbow light was a cave abode's protective array. It was another core forging enlightened master's cave abode. It seemed that Fa Xiang Laozu's harvesting methods weren't very good. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded in front of him. Is that junior martial brother Lu? Lu Ping recognized Wei Ziheng's voice, so he said, "It's me." He walked over and asked, "Senior martial brother, how's the situation?" Wei Ziheng said, "There's good news and bad news." Lu Ping hurriedly asked for the reason, and Wei Ziheng explained. The good news is that because of Junior Martial Brothers' amazing performance, our True Spirit faction entered Fei Ling Mountain in advance and obtained more than 30 spiritual herb gardens and a few cultivators' cave abodes. After that, many cultivators came in, and we also participated in it. The harvest was also considerable. The bad news is that Xin Ling faction cultivators, Hai Yin sect, and Shui Yin Pavilion cultivators coincidentally joined forces to resist our True Spirit faction. A few of our senior martial brothers were killed by them and other greedy cultivators. Now, we only have 30 people left, while Xinling sect has 7 more people than us. Lu Ping thought for a moment, then said, now they only have 3.5 more people than us. On the way, we ran into a few blind people, so I ambushed them, killing 3 and crippling 1. Wei Ziheng and the cultivators behind him said excitedly, good job, junior martial brother. Naturally, Lu Ping wouldn't reveal his full strength, so he only said that he ambushed them, but it still won everyone's admiration. Wei Ziheng asked about Lu Ping's harvest, but Lu Ping only said that he harvested a few spiritual herb gardens alone. Although Wei Ziheng was a little disappointed, he still said, that's not bad, junior martial brother. Junior martial brother, you harvested everything alone. When we split up, We only harvested 1 or 2 spiritual herb gardens alone before the other sects caught up to us. Our harvest of spiritual herbs can't compare to junior Marshall brothers. Lu Ping heard that Wei Ziheng only emphasized spiritual herbs, so he asked, could it be that senior Marshall brothers had other harvests? Su Ziping laughed and said, this time, we obtained an early-stage core forging cultivator's cave mansion by ourselves. We also participated in the attack of 2 core forging enlightened masters' caves with cultivators from other sects, one of which belonged to a mid-stage core forging cultivator. Lu Ping asked curiously, how did senior Marshall brother know whether the owner of the cave mansion was an early or mid-stage core forging cultivator? Su Zipeng was surprised. Junior Marshall brother, you didn't know. If the cave mansion's protective formation is 3-colored, then it belongs to an early-stage core forging cultivator. If it's 5-colored, then it belongs to a mid-stage core forging cultivator. If it's 7-colored, like the one in front of us, then it belongs to a late-stage core forging cultivator. Lu Ping looked at the 7-colored cave mansion in front of him, and his heart stirred. He asked Wei Ziheng, then the cave mansion we found on Censer Peak also belongs to a mid-stage core forging cultivator? Wei Ziheng nodded in agreement. By now, Lu Ping knew that the cave dwelling he used the talisman treasure twice and used landslide. On the way here was an early 3-colored core forging realm cultivator's cave dwelling. Wei Ziheng continued, this time, Failing Island's harvest is better than before. In the past, when Failing Island opened, at most 3 to 5 core forging cultivators' cave mansions were unearthed. But this time, only 7 core forging cultivators' cave mansions were unearthed, and this doesn't include the core forging cultivators' cave mansions that others don't know about. Among these 7 cave mansions, 3 were discovered by Xianling sect, Haiyan sect, and Shuiyan sect, and one of them is a mid-stage core forging cultivator's cave mansion. I think the harvest from this late-stage core forging cultivator's cave mansion is not small. Many cultivators had gathered around, and the fighting gradually subsided. Everyone's eyes were on this late-stage core forging cultivator's cave mansion. At this time, there was less than a day left before Failing Island closed. Chapter 101. Failing Mountain finally quieted down, and the flying dust gradually settled, revealing the scene at the top of the mountain in front of everyone. At this time, the top of Failing Mountain was clearly divided into 4 groups. Jinling sect was left with 29 people, occupying the east side of the cave mansion. Xianling sect was on the west side, with a total of 32 people. Obviously, some of them died in the battle just now. Haiyan sect and Shuiyan pavilion gathered some familiar cultivators, forming a third group of nearly 20 people, and gathered at the south side of the cave mansion. The rest of the cultivators from various sects mostly gathered at the north side of the cave mansion, and there were also cultivators scattered around. Obviously, cultivators had rushed back from all over Failing Island in the past 2 days. The formation outside the cave mansion was obviously much more powerful than the one Lu Ping had seen before, so the cultivators at the top of the mountain couldn't see the situation inside the cave mansion. Therefore, they couldn't determine where the main entrance of the cave mansion was, and could only rely on luck to occupy a position. This kind of cave mansion's protective formation was different from Failing Mountain's protective formation. As long as one part of the protective formation was broken, the whole formation would be broken, unlike the protective formation, which not only would the whole formation not collapse, but it would also slowly repair itself. Everyone was still in a stalemate around the cave mansion at the top of the mountain, and no one was willing to attack the formation first. Lu Ping was bored, so he had to look around the situation at the top of the mountain. The stream that Lu Ping had been following was not far away, and its source was at the center of the mountain. The spiritual energy here was rich, and it was the main vein of Failing Mountain's large spirit vein. The stream contained rich spiritual energy, and Lu Ping suddenly understood why he was able to obtain 7 spirit herb gardens and an early core forging cultivator's cave mansion. It was because the stream from the top of the mountain contained rich spiritual energy, so Failing sect cultivators opened up spirit herb gardens on both sides of the stream. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. Especially at the source of the stream, the spiritual energy in the water was especially rich. It far exceeded the amount of spiritual energy in the spring water in his cave dwelling. He could bring some back to water the spirit herb garden. Otherwise, the spirit spring water would be wasted. Lu Ping took out a jade bottle magic tool, which was obtained by Lu Ping when he was still a blood-refining cultivator from the cultivator-sharing union. This jade bottle was only a low-grade magic tool, and it didn't have strong offensive power. It could be used as a storage magic tool, but its capacity wasn't large. The reason why Lu Ping had kept this low-grade magic tool until now was because it could maintain the spiritual energy of the spiritual liquid in the jade bottle. Because of this, Lu Ping had always used it to store spiritual spring water to water the spirit fields and spirit herb garden. Lu Ping took out the jade bottle and filled it with the stream water at the source. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful. He should have upgraded this jade bottle to a mid-grade magic tool or a high-grade magic tool. That way, he could have stored more spiritual water. When Lu Ping arrived at the top of the mountain, Lu Ping released Dabeo. Unfortunately, the entire mountain was under the dual protection of the Forbidden Array and the Mountain Protection Array, so Dabeo couldn't go deep into the ground. This made Lu Ping's wishful thinking of collecting more spirit-gathering pearls fall through. I can't let myself have all the benefits, Lu Ping thought to himself. The stalemate in front of the abode was finally broken. No one knew who was the first to make a move, but suddenly, all kinds of magic tools and spells flew around on the top of the mountain, accompanied by the sound of ping ping pang pang. The great array of the abode protection kept shaking. Lu Ping chose to keep a low profile this time. He took out the mid-grade flying swallow sword and joined the attack of the others. At this time, Wei Ziheng suddenly sent a voice transmission to Lu Ping. Junior Martial Brother Lu, you have the strongest magic power among us. After the array is broken, you will be the first to rush into the cave mansion and fight for the treasures inside. The other Martial brothers and I will secretly block the others for you. This matter is only known to the 11 cultivators of my Zhenling. Lu Ping nodded. He knew that in front of a core forging cultivator's cave mansion, even an alliance was unreliable. Presumably, when they explored the other core forging cultivators' cave mansions, Wei Ziheng and the others had already noticed it. As the closing time of Feiling Island was getting closer, the people on the mountain top did their best this time. In just an hour, the grand array outside the cave mansion was extremely weakened. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Lu Ping, with the secret cooperation of the other cultivators of Zhenling, stood in front of the celestial spirit faction. Someone's magic tool became the straw that broke the camel's back. The array cracked with a roar, and everything inside the cave mansion was revealed in front of everyone. The entrance of the cave mansion actually opened to the south. The cultivators of Hai Yin Sect and Shui Yin Pavilion looked happy. Lu Ping took the lead and rushed out. At this time, the cultivators of Hai Yin Sect and Shui Yin Pavilion didn't care that the two sects were friendly. They swarmed toward the entrance of the cave mansion. Naturally, the cultivators of the other sects were unwilling to be left behind. They rushed toward the cave mansion. It was unknown who made the first move, but tens of magic tools suddenly smashed down on the heads of the cultivators of the two sections. Although the cultivators of the two sects and the cultivators of the other sects were prepared, such a large-scale attack still left 4 or 5 corpses. Soon after, the mountain top became a state of chaos. The falling dust shook again and gradually covered the surroundings of the cave mansion. At the same time that Lu Ping rushed out, the cultivators of Zhenling scattered around Lu Ping. Most of the magic tools attacking from the front and the sides were blocked by their fellow disciples. Lu Ping brought out a mid-grade water attribute magic tool that he obtained from an unknown person and placed it above his head. The soaring winged sword danced in front of him, catching all the attacks that slipped through. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before the cave mansion. Lu Ping swung his left hand and landslide, like a galloping iron mountain, smashed a big hole in the wall of the cave mansion with an unstoppable momentum. Lu Ping broke through the hole and happened to meet the two cultivators of Hai Yin Sect and Shui Yin Pavilion, who were the first to rush into the front hall of the cave mansion. Lu Ping saw that there were 3 paths in the front hall that led directly to the bottom of the cave mansion. He chose the path in the middle and rushed in, ignoring the two cultivators of Hai Yin Sect and Shui Yin Pavilion. At this time, a loud sound came from the west wall. Obviously, Lu Ping's method had inspired the cultivators of Xianling Sect. The two cultivators of Hai Yin Sect and Shui Yin Pavilion looked at each other, then each chose a path and rushed in. The one who rushed in after them was Zhang Weiqing of Xianling sect. Looking at everything in the cave mansion, he wanted to go straight to the middle path. Anyone could guess that there would be the biggest harvest there. However, he seemed to have thought of something and chose the path on the left and rushed down. Following him were the cultivators of Zhenling, Haiyan sect, and Shuiyin sect. Both sides fought each other as soon as they met. Then, the cultivators of Xianling sect also joined in, following which, the back wall of the palace was also broken, and cultivators rushed in one after another. The front hall of the cave mansion was a mess. After Lu Ping rushed underground, he released Debao to roam freely. After moving about 300 feet, his eyes suddenly lit up. This was an underground cave with a radius of several tens of square meters. The space was even bigger than the cave mansion in the belly of the mountain where Lu Ping lived. Lu Ping looked at a small palace built against the stone wall and rushed in. The furnishings inside the palace were extremely simple, far less luxurious than the outside. This was a place where cultivators lived and cultivated. On a stone platform, there was a grayish-white cattail hassock. On the hassock, there was a purple jade slip, a jade bottle made of chalcedony, and a brocade box with layers of seals. Other than these, there was nothing else in the room. Lu Ping put away the 4 items, including the hassock, and used his divine sense to confirm that there was nothing else in the room. As soon as he walked out, Debao appeared in front of him and pulled him to the side. Lu Ping's divine sense had already discovered a spiritual herb garden on the other side. Just as he was about to go there, he saw Debao pulling him to the other side. Curious, he followed. Lu Ping looked at the spiritual herb garden in front of him, which was less than half an acre in size, and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although there were a few stalks of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs in the garden, they weren't important enough to be harvested here. Listening to the noise outside the cave getting closer and closer, Lu Ping thought that it would be a waste of time to go back, so he would first harvest the spiritual herbs in this small garden. As soon as Lu Ping stepped into the spirit herb garden, the scenery in front of him changed. How was this a spirit herb garden that was less than half an acre in size? It was clearly a large spirit herb garden that was 5 acres in size. Could this be a spatial array formation? When Lu Ping was sighing at the wonders of this formation, he only heard a zhi sound. It turned out that Debao had also come in. Lu Ping was about to praise Debao, but found that Debao was forcefully pulling him out. Lu Ping said, "Debao, this is such a large spiritual herb garden. Let's first collect the spiritual herbs here. It's already too late." Debao was still unwilling to let go, and continued to pull Lu Ping's trousers. Lu Ping was helpless, and at the same time, he wanted to see what Debao was trying to do. Lu Ping took a step back, and suddenly appeared outside the spiritual herb garden. This time, Lu Ping clearly felt that something was wrong. This was not a formation, but more like an artifact. Debao took Lu Ping to dig the ground for a while. Lu Ping looked at everything in front of him and finally understood. This was a large spatial artifact that allowed people to freely enter and exit. Legend has it that only Fa Xiang Laozu had this method. Was this Fa Xiang Laozu's immortal cave? Lu Ping shook his head. If this was Fa Xiang Laozu's immortal cave, the North Sea cultivators of the past would never have missed it. After all, the number of Fa Xiang Laozu in Fei Ling sect was limited. If one of them did not notice it, wouldn't the many Fa Xiang Laozus of the North Sea turn the world upside down to search for it? Lu Ping finally found the main body of this large spatial artifact. It was an open book, and the page of the book was the spiritual herb garden. Lu Ping channeled his magic power into the book, intending to refine this artifact. However, he found that the book was like a bottomless pit, devouring all of Lu Ping's magic power. The rumbling sound of magic spells coming from the entrance of the cave was getting closer and closer. Clearly, the cultivators in the front hall were restraining each other, delaying their arrival. Moreover, Lu Ping moved quickly after entering this place. Moreover, the Jinling cultivators in the front hall were intentionally or unintentionally delaying Lu Ping. That was how Lu Ping was able to seize the initiative. However, it was already too late for Lu Ping. Lu Ping placed 2 high-quality essence rejuvenating pellets in his mouth and increased the flow of arcane energy into the book-shaped mystic instrument. Finally, before anyone could enter, the book rumbled and the spirit herb garden on the ground floated up into the air. Then, it slowly folded like a closed book. After that, the mystic instrument shrunk to the size of a brick and became a book about half an inch thick. The purple surface of the book was inscribed with the words "1,000 stalks millet" in the book. Chapter 102. When a disciple of an unknown sect rushed into the cave, Lu Ping was collecting the 1,000-year-old spiritual herb from the first spiritual herb garden he found. The collection of these spiritual herbs was actually the most time-consuming. Ever since Lu Ping entered Failing Island, he had only encountered 7 spiritual herb gardens along the 2 sides of the stream, and it took him 2 days to collect them. It could be seen how time-consuming it was to collect spiritual herbs. There were many things to pay attention to when collecting spiritual herbs. Otherwise, the spiritual herb itself would be damaged, and its effectiveness would be greatly reduced. The higher the grade of the spiritual herb, the more so. Therefore, when the cultivator came in, Lu Ping had just started to collect the second 1,000-year-old spiritual herb. This was because Lu Ping had casually destroyed a few passages on both sides of the cave. When the cultivator saw that it was Lu Ping, he obviously hesitated for a moment because Lu Ping had shown his strength in front of everyone a few times, which was really frightening. However, this cultivator still could not resist the temptation of the 30 to 41,000-year-old spiritual herbs in the spiritual herb garden. So he slowly approached the spiritual herb garden with vigilance. Lu Ping did not stop him and only focused on collecting the third spiritual herb. Finally, the cultivator relaxed and entered the spiritual herb garden to collect. After that, more and more cultivators entered the cave and joined in the fight for the spiritual herbs. At this moment, Lu Ping finally understood the situation at Lingyao Mountain. In just a moment, the nearly 41,000-year-old spiritual herbs and nearly 1,500-year-old spiritual herbs in the 2-acre spiritual herb garden were all snatched up. Lu Ping had left long before the spiritual herbs were all collected. He only collected 9 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs and ignored the rest of the 500-year-old spiritual herbs. If he did not come out and wait for the spiritual herb garden to be finished, there would be another chaotic battle. With Lu Ping's strength, he would definitely be the target of everyone's attack. Following Lu Ping were 3 Jinling cultivators. The other true spirit disciples of Yujin School and Chongming School had no time to care about them. At that moment, there were only 4 to 6 hours left before the closing of Flying Spirit Island. The cultivators would inevitably fall into a final frenzy and begin a brutal hunt for the resources in their hands. At that moment, only the cultivators of their own sect could be trusted. Thus, the most important thing to do was to gather the disciples of Jinling. Through the explanation of a senior disciple, Lu Ping learned that Wei Ziheng and Su Zipeng had each taken 2 or 3 disciples to the other 2 passages. Without another word, Lu Ping led the 3 of them into a passageway. This passage was where the cultivators of the cave abode, usually concocted pills and crafted weapons. At this time, it was already a mess inside. Lu Ping looked into the cave entrance and saw that Wei Ziheng and 2 other cultivators were being besieged by Xianling sect's Zhang Weiqing and his group of 7. The situation was extremely precarious, and there were also disciples from other sects fighting with each other. Zhang Weiqing sneered, "You Jinling bastards, I'll kill the 3 of you today, and our Xianling sect will win before the closing of Flying Spirit Island." Wei Ziheng didn't say anything. He just tried his best to defend against the attacks from the Xianling sect disciples. The other 2 disciples cooperated with him, but the 3 of them were already injured in many places. The 3 disciples behind Lu Ping panicked. Just as they were about to call for reinforcements, Lu Ping raised his hand to stop them. He took out his soaring sword and launched a sneak attack from the back of the Xianling sect disciples. The 3 disciples were puzzled. They were more than 40 feet away from the Xianling sect disciples, far beyond the range of a 3rd-layer blood condensation realm disciple's divine sense. How could Lu Ping launch an attack from such a distance? In the blink of an eye, the soaring sword was only 20 feet away from the Xianling sect disciples. The Xianling sect disciples' divine sense immediately detected the soaring sword's sneak attack. They screamed and tried to defend themselves, but it was already too late. One of the 2 Xianling sect disciples was killed, and the other was heavily injured. Zhang Weiqing turned around and saw Lu Ping and the other 3 disciples running towards him. He shouted viciously, "It's you again. Let's go." With that, the remaining 6 disciples quickly ran to the side. Wei Ziheng shouted, "It's not that easy." A net-like mystic instrument flew out from his hand and caught the heavily injured Xianling sect disciple. The other 2 disciples' mystic instruments had already flown over. Another Xianling sect disciple was dead. Wei Ziheng and Lu Ping didn't have time to exchange pleasantries. Since the matter was over, the 7 of them hurried out of the cave and went to another tunnel to help Su Ziping. The third tunnel led to the cave abode's study room. This was where the cave abode's master spent his days studying techniques, crafting talismans, and researching array formations. By the time Lu Ping and the rest arrived, the place was already ransacked. The bookshelves, tables, and chairs in the study room were all smashed to pieces. When they found Su Ziping, he was leading 4 people in pursuit of a few disciples from a few other sections. The group rushed forward and smashed the 4 disciples to death with their mystic instruments, scaring the other cultivators in the cave away. Su Ziping took out a few jade slips from the dead cultivators and said happily, "Damn it! How dare they steal my Zhenling's jewels? They deserve to die." In this trip to the cave abode, none of the 11 people died. Only Wei Ziheng and the other 2 were seriously injured. Everyone was naturally excited. After leaving the cave abode, they didn't linger. They avoided the peak of Fei Ling Mountain and waited for Fei Ling Island to close, and everyone was transported out. Speaking of the situation in the 3 passageways, Wei Ziheng said, "The most important benefit in the cave should have been obtained by Zhang Weiqing. He was the second to enter and killed a cultivator from the water mist pavilion. He obtained a few bottles of good quality medicinal pills. It was said that they were stored in jade crystal bottles, so they should be medicinal pills for the core forging realm. The spiritual herbs, spiritual materials, and magic tools inside were also taken by him. I only took a small part of it and even got into a conflict with him over a mid-grade pill furnace. If junior martial brother Lu didn't come to help, I might have died there." Su Ziping also said, "My cave was taken by the Haiyan sect first, but I went in later and also took a lot of things. Among them was a set of inheritance jade slips about the chain formation. A few cultivators from other sects took a few. Yes, they were the unlucky guys we met on our way here. Now this set of inheritance is in our hands." Lu Ping wanted to ask them if they had jade slips about alchemy and talisman making, but seeing that both of them were looking at him, obviously expecting his harvest, Lu Ping smiled and said, "It's nothing, just a jade essence bottle." Everyone exclaimed, "It's actually a jade essence bottle? Isn't this?" Su Ziping lowered his voice, but still couldn't hide the excitement on his face. He said, "It's really a jade essence bottle?" According to the legends, only Dharma Fei's ancestors would use the jade essence bottle to refine their pills? Lu Ping nodded and said, "It is indeed a jade essence bottle." Wei Ziheng also couldn't wait to ask, "Is it the abode of Dharma Fei's Laozu?" Lu Ping thought for a while and shook his head. He said, "It shouldn't be, but it should be a prominent core forging stage cultivator from Fei Ling's sect." Everyone obviously didn't believe that it would be the abode of Dharma Fei's Laozu, but they quite agreed with Lu Ping's opinion. At this time, there were only 2 hours left before Fei Ling Island closed. In order to obtain more resources, the powerful sects began to form gangs to rob the weaker cultivators. The smaller sects didn't show weakness either. When they encountered a powerful group, they would stay far away from it. When they encountered a lone cultivator, no matter which sect he was from, they would kill him without hesitation. For a moment, Fei Ling Mountain was in chaos again, but this time, the battle seemed a lot more dull. Many battles started very suddenly and ended very quickly. Everyone raised their vigilance, lest the cultivators who heard the news would take advantage of them if they fought for a long time, so they all pursued a one-hit kill. At this time, Jinling's group of 11 people was extremely abrupt. They had the most people and were the most powerful, so no cultivators came to provoke them. What should they do next? Everyone looked at Wei Ziheng, Su Ziping, and Lu Ping. Wei Ziheng pondered for a while and said, "We still need to help Songhai, Yujian, and Chongming sects. After all, we are in an alliance. If we ignore them at the last moment, it won't look good on our sect's enlightened masters." Everyone agreed. At this time, Fei Ling's sect had gained a lot. Compared to Xin Ling's sect, their chances of winning were not small. The most important thing now was to preserve their strength and survive at the last moment. Everyone didn't split up. They searched around Fei Ling Mountain and united the cultivators from the other 3 sections. After a while, 6 or 7 people gathered. The news spread, and another 4 or 5 people rushed over. At this time, Lu Ping and the others found out that Zhang Weiqing and the others from Xin Ling's sect were killing disciples from other sects on Fei Ling Mountain to gather resources. Obviously, they had realized that they were at a disadvantage in the competition with Shenling. Now, all the cultivators on Fei Ling Mountain were hiding. Wei Ziheng saw that there were already 22 people gathered. This should be a force that could do whatever they wanted on Fei Ling Mountain. He said, "Let's go and find Xianling's sect. We can't let them mess around like this." More than 20 people from the 4 sects walked towards the area where the battle was the most intense. Along the way, they found 2 or 3 disciples from the other 3 sections. 2 of them had been hiding outside Fei Ling Mountain. It was only because they wanted to teleport out of Fei Ling Island at the last moment that cultivators had to be on Fei Ling Mountain. That was why they entered Fei Ling Mountain at the last moment. They didn't expect to run into so many cultivators going crazy at the last moment. Along the way, they also killed a few cultivators who didn't know what to do. Suddenly, they saw a cultivator running towards Lu Ping's group in a panic from the back mountain. 3 cultivators were chasing after him. When they got closer, Lu Ping realized that the cultivator running towards them was Ai Shutao, whom he met in the Golden Sand Mine. The 3 cultivators chasing after him were also disciples from Xianling, Feiyu, and Linggu sects. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Lu Ping turned around and said, "Senior brothers, the cultivator in front is a friend of mine. Please help me kill the Xianling bastards behind us." That's how it should be. Several cultivators dashed out from both sides, cutting off the trio's escape route. Lu Ping took the lead and said, "Brother Ai Shutao, come this way." At the same time, the soaring winged sword in his hand was already swinging towards the 3 cultivators behind him. Ai Shutao's face lit up when he saw Lu Ping, but when he saw the people behind him, he hesitated. Still, he ran towards Lu Ping and whispered to Lu Ping, "Xianling sect, Haiyan sect, and Shuiyin Pavilion found a core forging cave abode." Chapter 103. By the time Ai Shutao's group of 3 noticed Zhenling's group, it was already too late. They tried to send a signal to Xianling's group, but they were instantly killed by Zhenling's group and their loot was divided among them. Lu Ping heard Ai Shutao's words and quickly asked what happened. Ai Shutao said, "Xianling sect, Haiyan sect, and Shuiyin Pavilion found a core forging cultivator's cave abode here. The 2 sects reached an agreement to monopolize the treasures in the abode. In order to prevent news from leaking, especially from Zhenling's group, the 2 sects began to hunt and kill cultivators from other sects around the abode. After I entered Rufei Ling Mountain, I accidentally bumped into the 2 sects who were preparing to break the protective array. That's why I fled here." Wei Ziheng asked, "Brother Ai, how many of them did you see?" Ai Shutao replied, "About 30 people." Wei Ziheng looked at the group behind him. Including Ai Shutao, there were 25 people. He smiled and said, "No matter what, we can't let them monopolize the treasures. Let's go and have a share." Everyone laughed. With Ai Shutao leading the way, they walked towards the cave abode at the back of the mountain. Along the way, many cultivators got some rest and joined in Zhenling's group. Many cultivators were indignant at the violent methods used by the 2 sects to monopolize the treasures. Before this, they didn't dare to provoke the 2 sects because they were too powerful. But now that Zhenling took the lead, they naturally joined in. Lu Ping saw more and more cultivators gathered around them. He couldn't help but sigh. In order to win the competition with Zhangling, Zhang Weiqing didn't hesitate to hunt and kill cultivators from other sections. This had angered everyone. Although these cultivators didn't have much influence in their sects, they were still the best among their peers. In the future, as their cultivation levels increased, their words would have more weight, and they might not be able to tolerate Xianling's sect anymore. That would be the time when Xianling's sect would be in trouble. At this time, Junling and the other sect's disciples had already gathered 40 to 50 people. They no longer had any scruples. The Xinling sect disciples who were standing guard outside the perimeter had already sent the news back. When they arrived in front of the cave, a 5-colored protective array appeared in front of them, causing them to be overjoyed. Wei Ziheng laughed as he stepped forward and said, "Fellow Taoist Zhang Weiqing of Xinling sect, fellow Taoist Si Changxing of Haiyan sect, and fellow Taoist Su Liyuan of Shui Yin Pavilion. Why didn't you inform everyone on Fei Ling Mountain that you found such great treasures? It's not a good habit to keep everything to yourself." Zhang Weiqing was already gnashing his teeth in hatred. He stepped forward and said, "What do you want?" Wei Ziheng said with a straight face, "Every sect and family here, regardless of the number of people, send a representative. Once the cave is broken, the representatives will search inside based on their own abilities. No fighting is allowed inside the cave. Whoever makes the first move will incur the wrath of everyone when they come out. What do you think?" At this point, Zhang Weiqing had already lost his mind from anger. Obviously, he didn't notice that Wei Ziheng was plotting against him. Flustered and exasperated, he said, "Why? Putting aside the fact that this cave was discovered by us, just based on strength alone, how can those sects with only 1 or 2 cultivators compare to us, Xinling sect?" As soon as Zhang Weiqing finished speaking, the cultivators present were the first to express their dissatisfaction. Wei Ziheng snorted coldly and said, "Zhang Weiqing, since you're talking about strength, fine. I, Xinling, have 11 cultivators. I, Xinling, am the strongest among all the sects here. If we're talking about losing out, I, Xinling, didn't even say that I'm not willing. What can your Xinling sect say? Don't tell me that you, with only 8 people left, want to be on equal footing with me, Xinling?" The cultivators present were already in an uproar, criticizing Xinling sect one after another. At this point, Zhang Weiqing already knew that he had fallen into Wei Ziheng's trap. With a furious expression, he was about to say something when Shui Yin Pavilion's Su Liyuan, who had already seen through the situation, said in a crisp voice, "If that's the case, then we'll do as fellow Taoist Wei says." Haiyan sect and Shui Yin Pavilion were on the same side. So Si Changxing also agreed. Zhang Weiqing saw that he couldn't offend the crowd, so he had no choice but to comply. At this moment, the happiest people were the disciples from the small sects present. They were either alone or in pairs, so they didn't expect to see the scenery of the core forging cave abode. But now that the opportunity was right in front of them, they were naturally ecstatic. Their gazes toward Xinling's group also became a lot friendlier. The closing time of Fei Ling Island was getting closer and closer. Immediately, everyone worked together and broke the array formation. Out of the 70 to 80 cultivators present, only 15 representatives came out. One had to know that there were a total of 30 sects participating in the opening of Fei Ling Island. Although the 10 largest sects took up 3/4 of the quota, and there were still cultivators hiding in the corners of Fei Ling Mountain who didn't participate in this operation, the fact that there were only 15 representatives still sent chills down the hearts of the cultivators present. Lu Ping still represented Xinling. It wasn't because Lu Ping was the strongest, nor was it because Wei Ziheng had yet to recover from his injuries, but because when Lu Ping rescued Wei Ziheng, everyone saw how powerful his divine sense was. It could cover a distance of more than 400 feet, which naturally gave him an advantage when searching for treasures in the cave abode. Lu Ping boldly stood in the middle of the group of 15 people, facing the cave abode's main entrance. No one had any objections. Xinling was the strongest at the moment, so this kind of treatment was naturally given to him. Zhang Weiqing, Su Liyuan, and the others didn't say anything either. At the moment, they were in a disadvantageous position. Besides, most of the people present had seen Lu Ping's strength. His pair of high-grade flying swords were truly incomparably sharp, and there were even rumors that he could easily control 2 high-grade magic tools. Although no one believed it, they all guessed that he should have another high-grade magic tool on him. With only 15 minutes left, the 15 people rushed into the cave abode. As the only cultivator from the AI clan, AI Shudao also followed the crowd into the cave abode. How could a cave abode withstand 15 cultivators raiding it? Not to mention that the most valuable items were usually carried by the owner at all times, so there wouldn't be anything good left inside. After a series of clanking sounds, Lu Ping was the first to come out. He handed Wei Ziheng 3 jade crystal bottles, a top-grade defensive magic tool, the wooden rattan armor, and a bottle of blood-condensing pills. It was indeed a bottle of blood-condensing pills, a total of 10 pills. Lu Ping initially thought that Wei Ziheng was also an expert in alchemy, but he didn't find anything like an alchemy furnace in the cave abode. Seeing that most of the items in the cave abode had already been claimed, and the remaining items didn't interest him, he came out first. Wei Ziheng didn't expect that Lu Ping would bring out so many good items in one trip, and he was instantly overjoyed. After that, everyone also left the cave abode. AI Shudao found Lu Ping and told him in private that he found a set of 6 mid-grade magic tools. When combined, the power was equivalent to a high-grade magic tool. When he reached the mid-blood condensation realm, he would be able to try using them. Lu Ping remembered that day in the heavenly gold sand mine. AI Shutao's set of mother-child flying daggers blocked the attacks of 2 cultivators of the same level. Lu Ping knew that AI Shutao was good at using sets of magic tools, so he congratulated him. While the two were talking, Failing Mountain shook again. It was finally time for Failing Island to close. Every cultivator had a teleportation talisman given to them by their sect's elders. At this moment, all the cultivators turned into a ball of white light. Hence, they clamored for the disciples of the 2 sects to start the treasure battle to determine the winner. The first to start was the competition between the disciples of Chongming sect and Linggu sect. Although Chongming sect had 2 more disciples than Linggu sect, the last 2 cultivators that Lu Ping and the others encountered were Chongming sect's disciples. The 2 disciples' harvest was only a quarter of the others. In the end, Chongming sect lost the bet with Linggu sect, and half of Failing Island's harvest was taken by Linggu sect. The 2 Chongming sect's disciples were ashamed. Chapter 104. Although Chongming sect lost the bet due to the poor performance of its 2 disciples on Failing Island, the enlightened masters didn't say anything. After all, the 2 sects were ranked at the bottom of the top 10 sects in the North Sea, so it didn't mean anything. Moreover, Jinling was calm and composed about it. As expected, in the subsequent competition of treasures between the Jade Sword faction and the Soaring Feather faction, the Jade Sword faction defeated the Soaring Feather faction with a slight advantage. The 5 cultivators from the Soaring Feather faction brought out a total of 5,500-year-old spiritual grasses and 21,000-year-old spiritual grasses, causing the cultivators from the Jade Sword faction to feel dejected. As for the Jade Sword faction's sage Duanlangxian, he chuckled and took away half of the spiritual grasses from the Soaring Feather faction. When it came to the Azure Sea sect and the Azure Wave sect's treasure battle, there was no more suspense. The 7 people from the Azure Sea sect took out 9,000 stalks of 500-year spirit herbs and 40 stalks of 1,000-year spirit herbs, overshadowing the 7,500 stalks of 500-year spirit herbs and 36 stalks of 1,000-year spirit herbs. When Songhai sect's enlightened master took away half of Songlang sect's spiritual herbs, Songlang sect's enlightened master's expression changed. Obviously, the loss of these spiritual herbs made the enlightened master's heart ache. At this time, everyone's attention was on Jinling sect and Xianling sect. In fact, there wasn't much suspense in the battle between the 2 sections. After all, Jinling sect had 11 disciples who survived, which was the sect with the highest survival rate among all the sects in the North Sea, 3 more than Xianling sect. However, everyone was concerned about the number of spiritual herbs, not the outcome. They were especially looking forward to Jinling's harvest. After Xianling sect's cultivators returned, they kept discussing something. From time to time, Zhang Weiqing would respectfully ask Feng Shutao and the others for instructions. Looking at Feng Shutao's nonchalant expression, no one could guess what Xianling sect was planning. Finally, Zhang Weiqing seemed to have made up his mind. Seeing the many cultivators on the sea, including the core forging enlightened masters, looking at them, he no longer hesitated and revealed his harvest. On the other hand, the enlightened masters didn't think that they were faking it. Firstly, the enlightened masters couldn't afford to offend them. Secondly, when they entered Failing Island, they were given a special storage bag. Lu Ping and the rest could only store their spiritual herbs in this storage bag. Therefore, Even if they knew that they were going to lose, they couldn't hide a portion of their spiritual herbs. Moreover, Xianling's sect was the leader of the North Sea's major sects, so they couldn't do such a thing. The moment the 8 Xianling sect disciples took out the spirit herbs, the cultivators at the scene gasped in surprise. The enlightened masters from the various sects also raised their eyebrows. There were even a few enlightened masters who harumphed loudly. There were more than 14,000 stalks of 500-year-old spirit herbs and nearly 100 stalks of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs on the ground. These things were enough to move every enlightened being present. However, a considerable portion of these spirit herbs were obtained by Xianling sect disciples from other sects at the last moment, so the enlightened masters from other sects were dissatisfied. Jinling Wei Ziheng and the rest looked at each other. Other than Lu Ping, the other 10 people threw the storage bags in their hands into the air. Instantly, more than 200 jade boxes appeared in the air. When the jade boxes were opened, 18,000 stalks of 500-year-old spirit herbs appeared in front of everyone. Among them, 10 boxes made of jade crystals were particularly eye-catching. The medicinal fragrance and rich spiritual energy fluctuations of the 121,000-year-old spirit herbs attracted the attention of all the cultivators present. At this time, even the enlightened masters at the scene were envious. Jinling Master Lu Xianling and enlightened Master Gua Xianshan didn't know why Lu Ping didn't show his harvest, but they were already very satisfied with it. At this time, Lu Ping wasn't deliberately looking down on the 2 sects' treasures. Instead, he was busy sorting out the harvest in his storage bag. During this trip to Feiling Island, Lu Ping's harvest was simply heaven-defying. It was so much that he couldn't believe it and even felt a little guilty. Thinking that most of these harvests would eventually be handed over to the sect, Lu Ping was a little unwilling. But he also knew that this was an opportunity provided by the sect. Every time Feiling Island was opened, the sect also needed to spend a lot of resources and the true essence of a core forging realm enlightened master, so it was understandable for the sect to make such a rule. The 2 enlightened masters from Zhenling had long noticed that Lu Ping's divine sense had been exploring the storage bag. Seeing that the other disciples didn't warn him, they didn't say anything. They were just curious about this young man's harvest. How could he make the other 10 people approve of his special performance? Looking at Zhenling's harvest, Zhang Weiqing was furious. Although he expected that he would lose, he didn't expect that he would lose so miserably. Looking at enlightened Master Feng Sudao's slightly narrowed eyes, Zhang Weiqing felt a chill down his spine. He suddenly remembered that he had asked the enlightened masters from his sect for permission. Although he didn't get a reply, didn't that mean that they didn't object? Zhang Weiqing's mind immediately became active. He thought about his harvest in the core forging realm abode, especially that thing. If he took it out, he would definitely turn defeat into victory. He couldn't care so much now. With an idea in mind, Zhang Weiqing stepped forward and bowed to the surrounding enlightened masters, saying, "Esteemed masters, although Xianling sect doesn't have as many spiritual herbs as Zhenling, the harvest on Feiling Island isn't just spiritual herbs. This junior thinks that other than spiritual herbs, other harvests should also be part of the contents of this bet. Therefore, this junior would like to ask for permission to expand the contents of the treasure battle." The enlightened masters didn't expect that a junior from Xianling sect would make such a suggestion. They all looked at enlightened Master Feng Sudao, but Feng Sudao was unperturbed and didn't express his opinion at all. The rest of the enlightened masters were more than happy to continue watching the 2 sects' disciples compete for treasures. Previously, the harvests of the 2 sects' spiritual herbs had already moved the enlightened masters. Now that the junior from Xianling sect had made a suggestion, it was obvious that he had a treasure that could turn defeat into victory. Naturally, the enlightened masters were excited and wanted to see what other harvests the 2 sects' disciples had. Enlightened Master Lu Xianling smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Feng, is this also your sect's intention?" Feng Sudao opened his eyes slightly and said, "The juniors are messing around. Let them be. We are just here to watch the show." Enlightened Master Lu cursed under his breath, but he couldn't figure out what Xianling sect had up their sleeves. He looked at Wei Ziheng and the others and saw the disdainful look in his disciples' eyes. "Zhang Weiqing, you're courting death." Enlightened Master Lu had an idea and said, Since fellow Taoist Feng doesn't object, that means you agree. The scope of the treasure battle between Zhenling's sect and Xianling's sect will be expanded. Our disciples can display whatever they want on Failing Island, and the loser will have to give half of their harvest to the loser. Enlightened Master Lu wasn't someone who was easy to deal with. Since you, Feng Sudao, want to fool around, then I, Lu Xianling, will make sure that you won't regret it. I only hope that the juniors can really win against Xianling's sect. Seeing that things were going according to his plan, Zhang Weiqing's spirit was lifted. He said, "We also obtained 96 bottles of blood condensation realm medicinal pills from our trip to Failing Island. Please, enlightened masters, have a look." With their divine senses, the enlightened masters knew that the medicinal pills in the bottles were real, so they nodded slightly. Su Ziping snickered. "Zhang Weiqing, you really don't want to give up. Then let me show you my harvest from Zhenling." Then, he placed 110 jade bottles on the table. Inside were blood condensation realm medicinal pills. High Insect's enlightened Master Hong, Yinping pointed at Lu Ping and smiled. "Did this disciple of your sect also find a place to hide on Failing Island for 18 days? Why aren't there any of his things in there?" After enlightened Master Hong said that, he saw the disciples of his sect and the other sects who participated in the trip to Failing Island had a strange expression on their faces. Even Xianling's sect's Zhang Weiqing's expression changed. Shui Yin Pavilion's enlightened Master Han Rian smiled and said, "Senior Martial Brother Hong, there's something you don't know. According to my disciples, this little fellow from Zhenling is probably the biggest winner of this trip to Failing Island." Lu Ping had just roughly counted his harvest when he heard the two enlightened masters talking about him. His heart skipped a beat. He knew that he had overlooked something. At this moment, enlightened Master Guoxianshan said, "Kid, take out your treasures and let everyone see them. Even old Guo is not happy with you hiding them like this." Lu Ping was stunned. At this time, Wei Ziheng had already told Lu Ping about what happened. Only then did Lu Ping look at Zhang Weiqing. With a wave of his hand, 50 to 60 bottles of blood condensation realm medicinal pills appeared on the ground. These were Lu Ping's harvest from Failing Island's cave abode and from killing cultivators from other sections. Lu Ping's extraordinary actions caused an uproar among the blood condensation cultivators. The 30-plus enlightened masters all looked at Lu Ping. Lu Ping immediately felt like there was a dagger on his back. Enlightened Master Guoxianshan laughed and said, "Not bad, not bad. You didn't embarrass me, Zhenling. Old Guo, make the decision on my own. You can keep half of these medicinal pills." As enlightened Master Guo spoke, an imposing aura enveloped him. The sharp gazes of the enlightened masters were instantly blocked. Lu Ping immediately felt the pressure on him lessening. When he heard that he could keep half of the medicinal pills for cultivation, he was in a good mood. Zhang Weiqing didn't expect that Lu Ping's actions would be able to widen the gap between the two sections. He felt even more indignant. So, he and the other 7 people took out another 10 jade crystal bottles. These bottles contained medicinal pills for core forging cultivators. This already caused the enlightened masters to look at them with envy. As one's cultivation increased, medicinal pills suitable for cultivation became even more difficult to obtain. Take Zhenling, for example. If medicinal pills for the blood refining realm were the lowest guarantee, then medicinal pills for the blood condensation realm were a limited supply. At the core forging realm, there were too many medicinal pills for core forging realm cultivators. From this, one could see how precious these 10 bottles of medicinal pills were. Wei Ziheng placed the jade crystal bottles that the other Zhenling cultivators obtained on the ground. There were a total of 10 bottles. Just as Zhang Weiqing heaved a sigh of relief, he saw Lu Ping take out another 5 jade crystal bottles with a wave of his hand. Zhang Weiqing's breath caught in his throat, and he coughed repeatedly. This time, not only the other enlightened masters, even enlightened Master Guoxianshan was shocked. Enlightened Master Lu, on the other hand, was full of smiles. Chapter 105. Lu Ping was already cursing. Zhang Weiqing knew that he was going to lose, but he still wanted to force Lu Ping to hand over all his treasures. Lu Ping had been thinking about how to hide some of the spirit herbs and pills for his own cultivation and pill concoction. But now, Zhang Weiqing had revealed all his treasures in the open. Even if he wanted to play some tricks, it would be impossible. Fortunately, this kind of treasure competition was only limited to resources related to cultivation. If magic tools, spirit stones, and so on were included, Lu Ping would cry to death. At this time, Zhang Weiqing was forced to the edge of a cliff. It was his suggestion that forced Xianling's sect to reveal all their treasures. But in the end, they still lost to Zhenling. Seeing that half of the sect's treasures were about to be taken away by Zhenling, Zhang Weiqing could already feel perfected Master Feng Shuzao's murderous gaze lingering on his neck. Zhang Weiqing looked like a gambler with bloodshot eyes. Suddenly, he carefully took out a jade box that was sealed with a spirit-sealing talisman. The 30 perfected masters' eyes lit up. They were all knowledgeable people. Naturally, they knew that the spirit-sealing talisman was the work of a core-forging perfected master. Then, what was inside the box was naturally exciting. Zhang Weiqing's bloodshot eyes were filled with killing intent. He looked at Lu Ping and said, "This is the last treasure of Xianling's sect. It is also our biggest treasure on Failing Island. If you can win this, then there's no need to compete anymore." As he finished speaking, he removed the spirit-sealing talisman and opened the box. The perfected masters gasped in shock. Feng Shuzhao quickly took a few steps forward. When he saw what was inside the box, his expression finally changed. "This is spiritual item, mystic grade low grade, meteorite gold." The discussions of the perfected masters shocked the blood condensation cultivators. They were shocked at the perfected master's loss of composure. Then, they were shocked at the preciousness of a spiritual item. Meteorite gold was a metal-type spiritual item. Even though it was the lowest grade among spiritual items, mystic grade low grade, every kind of spiritual item was a rare treasure. It meant that a core-forging enlightened master could advance from early stage to mid-stage, or even mid-stage to late stage. It was something that every perfected master wanted. It was common in the cultivation world for core-forging enlightened masters to fight life-or-death battles for spiritual items. This was Zhang Weiqing's last resort, and it was also his greatest trump card to turn the tables. At this moment, Feng Shutao finally stroked his beard in satisfaction. All the enlightened masters in his sect also believed that Jinling's sect would definitely lose. Enlightened Master Lu and Enlightened Master Guo's confidence began to waver as well. The only ones who remained calm were Lu Ping, Wei Ziheng, and the others. The spiritual masters present immediately discovered this situation, and the noise on the scene immediately quieted down. However, the spiritual masters in private were still discussing incessantly. "These kids are so calm. Do they have more tricks up their sleeves?" "I don't think so. I don't think Jinling's kids know how precious spiritual items are. It's hard to say. Maybe they have a spiritual item with them." Spiritual items are extremely rare. Xianling sect's cultivators are lucky enough to get one. If Xianling gets another one, there might be some core-forging cultivators who destroy their own cultivation to look for a spiritual item the next time True Spirit Island opens. Or maybe it's a spiritual pill that Laozu cultivators use. That's even more impossible. You don't even sound like you. Dharma Laozu cultivators only have a few types of spiritual pills, and each of them is comparable to a spiritual item. But don't forget, Failing Island was plowed by dozens of Laozu cultivators. How could there be anything left? The perfected masters expressed their opinions. Perfected Guo Xianshan was getting impatient. He shouted, "Kids, if you have any other tricks up your sleeves, use them now. Otherwise, you'll lose half of the items on the ground." Wei Ziheng and the others looked at Lu Ping. The perfected masters couldn't help but look forward to seeing if this youngster, who had spent so much during the treasure battles, would bring them another surprise. Lu Ping, on the other hand, seemed to be plotting something in his mind. However, to the others, Lu Ping seemed to be hesitating about something. The perfected masters naturally thought that Lu Ping did not have a treasure that was comparable to the fallen essence gold. Perfected Guo Xianshan was the first to change his expression. Perfected Master Lu Xianling also had a serious look on his face. No one had expected that the disciples of Fei Ling Island would reap such a huge harvest. It was so huge that even the perfected masters of Core Forging Realm found it hard to choose. At this time, No matter who lost, half of the resources would be worth hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. Even for Jinling's sect and Xianling's sect, it was like cutting off their flesh. At this time, Feng Sudao suddenly said, "Kid, it's normal if you can't take out a treasure of equal value. After all, heaven and earth spiritual treasures belong to the virtuous ones. It's just that you haven't taken out the spirit herbs from Feiling Island yet. Are you trying to cheat?" Feng Sudao was talking nonsense. Just now, Xianling's sect was suppressed by Jinling. Even without Lu Ping's help, Jinling was far ahead in the gathering of spirit herbs. At that time, none of the perfected masters asked Lu Ping to take out the spirit herbs. Now that Feng Sudao thought that victory was in his grasp, he started to scheme for the spirit herbs in Lu Ping's hands. Perfected Gua Xianshan snorted angrily. "Old dog Feng, you shameless bastard." Feng Sudao sneered. "I'm speaking the truth. What did I say wrong? Do you want to enlighten me?" Perfected Gua Xianshan snorted coldly. He put on a straight face and stopped talking. At this time, a young voice suddenly said, "What Perfected Master Feng said is reasonable. According to Perfected Master, if I, Jinling, win, I, Jinling, will get half of this fallen gold essence. Am I right?" The person who spoke was Lu Ping. Feng Sudao's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this kid really has a treasure that is comparable to the fallen gold essence? If so, what I said just now would be like shooting myself in the foot. However, as a perfected master in the late stage of core forging, how could he go back on his words in front of so many people? Not to mention, he didn't believe that Lu Ping could really take out a treasure that is comparable to a heaven and earth spiritual treasure. Hence, Feng Sudao looked at Lu Ping with disdain and said, "Of course." His words were resolute and decisive, showing the decisive style of a core forging enlightened master. All the disciples looked at him with admiration. "Oh," Lu Ping said and said, "I'm sure perfected master's words carry enormous weight." After saying that, he flipped a storage bag on the ground. Nearly 7,000 stalks of 500-year-old spiritual herbs and 120 stalks of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs fell in the middle of Jinling's pile of spiritual herbs. Even Wei Zihong, Su Zipong, and the others who came to Feiling Island with him didn't know that Lu Ping had collected so many spiritual herbs. They were all surprised. On the other hand, Feng Sudao, Zhang Weiqing, and the other Xianling sect cultivators were overjoyed. Zhang Weiqing and the others had guessed that Lu Ping's harvest was bountiful, but they didn't expect it to be this bountiful. Lu Ping looked at the spiritual herbs on the ground and counted them in his heart. Only then did he realize that about half of them were his spoils of war. In the 18 days since Feiling Island opened, the number of cultivators who died in his hands had reached 23. Out of the 200 cultivators who entered Feiling Island, almost 1 out of every 8 died in his hands. Lu Ping looked at the greedy expressions on Zhang Weiqing and the others. He turned to Enlightened Master Lu and Enlightened Master Gua and said, "Two Enlightened Masters, Disciple found a dying flame on Feiling Island. Disciple's knowledge is shallow, so I don't know what kind of spiritual fire it is. I'd like to ask the two Enlightened Masters to appraise it." Having said that, Lu Ping took out a spirit gathering plate that he found in the secret underground chamber of the artifact refining hall. After 1 month, I believe Xianling's sect will be able to maintain its position in the North Sea. Enlightened Master Lin didn't have the mood to stay any longer. After he agreed, he left with Zhang Weiqing and the others, who looked as if they had lost their parents, and left with half of the spiritual herbs and spiritual pills. Jinling won the battle of treasures, and Xianling's sect lost completely. Chapter 106. On the way back to Jinling, Perfected Gua Xianshan asked, "Kid, when I saw Xianling's sect showing off with the fallen adamantine, the other kids were calm. Obviously, they knew you had something better than the fallen adamantine. But when you took out the core melting flame, they were in disbelief. Why?" Lu Ping looked at Gua Xianshan in surprise. He initially thought that Enlightened Master Lu would be the one to reveal this flaw, but he didn't expect Enlightened Master Gua to have such sharp eyes. These Enlightened Masters had spent hundreds of years to reach where they were today, and during this time, they had experienced many storms. None of them were easy to deal with. Lu Ping knew these things couldn't be kept a secret. He was only planning how to get the most out of the sect's cooperation with the sect. Lu Ping didn't say anything. He quietly took out a jade essence bottle from his storage bag. As soon as the jade essence bottle appeared, Zhenren Gua gasped. Even Zhenren Lu, who had always been elegant, felt his face burning. Enlightened Master Lu took the jade essence bottle from Lu Ping's hand, opened the cork, and shouted excitedly, "Spirit forging pellets. There are 8 of them." What? Perfected Gua couldn't believe it. He couldn't wait to take the bottle from Perfected Lu and confirm it again. It really is the spirit forging pill. The 2 perfected masters calmed down immediately. Perfected Lu said, "You all thought Lu Ping would take out the spirit forging pill in the treasure competition, right? In that case, the earth core melting flame was obtained by Lu Ping alone." Everyone nodded. Perfected Lu said seriously, "It's good that Lu Ping didn't take out the spirit forging pill in the treasure competition. Let's stop talking about the spirit forging pill today. The 11 of you have never obtained any spirit forging pill from Failing Island. Do you understand?" Lu Ping and the others quickly nodded. They were curious about the spirit forging pill's use. Perfected Gua said, "With this bottle of spirit forging pill, Senior Brother Zhang's chances of breaking through to the Dharma phase will be much higher." Taoist Master Lu also smiled and said, "I've already sent out the news. I'm afraid Senior Brother Zhang already knows that we have obtained the spirit forging pill." Then, he looked at the confused expressions on Lu Ping and the others' faces. He smiled and said, "This spirit forging pill can increase the quality of a core forging cultivator's golden core and increase the chances of advancing. It is the most important pill for core forging cultivators to increase their cultivation level. However, its main use is when a late core forging cultivator uses a spirit treasure to forge his golden core for the 3rd time to break through to the Dharma stage. Therefore, although this bottle does not contain Dharma pills, the value of the spirit forging pills is even higher than normal Dharma pills. As for spirit treasures, anything below the earth grade is not as valuable as these 8 spirit forging pills. Once everyone returned to Tianling Mountain, Lu Ping was summoned by Perfected Jiang Xianlin. Perfected Jiang Xuanlin's cave was located on the mountainside closest to the peak of Tianling Mountain. This also showed Perfected Jiang Xuanlin's status among the core forging cultivators. Perfected Jiang Xianlin looked at the spirit forging pills in his hand and said, 8 spirit forging pills. At least 2 late core forging cultivators will owe you a favor. You also have a heaven and earth spirit fire that can help a mid-core forging cultivator and a few bottles of core forging pills. Even I am jealous of you. Tell me, kid, what do you want?" This was exactly what Lu Ping was waiting for. He didn't hesitate to reveal the earth core melting flame in the treasure competition. Other than the fact that he had a better indigo spirit fire and that he didn't cultivate a fire elemental cultivation technique, the most important reason was that he wanted to exchange it with the sect. It was impossible to play tricks with these perfected cultivators. Lu Ping said without hesitation, "I want a piece of soul-nurturing wood." Perfected Jiang Xinlin pointed at Lu Ping and smiled. "I knew you wouldn't be easy to get rid of. You brought a piece of soul-nurturing wood that is of the same grade as the earth core melting flame. Fine. For the sake of this spirit-forging pill, this old Taoist can only put aside his old face and help you. Fortunately, your actions on Failing Island this time have helped our sect gain face and benefits. There should be a few people who will speak up for you." Lu Ping hurriedly thanked Perfected Jiang Xianlin. Perfected Jiang waved his hand and said, "You have made a great contribution this time. The sect will definitely reward you. However, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep those 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Our sect's pill refiners will come looking for you soon. As for how you will bargain with those sect masters, that will depend on your ability." The sect's rewards came quickly. Wei Ziheng and the others each received a high-grade spirit stone and 5 bottles of blood condensation realm pills. They were also allowed to enter the blood condensation realms vault to choose 3 items. Lu Ping's reward was slightly more generous. Other than a piece of mystic-class mid-tier soul-nurturing wood, there was also a high-grade spirit stone and 50 mid-grade spirit stones in his storage ring. Lu Ping chose to postpone his 3 trips to the blood condensation realms vault. He was only at the third layer of the blood condensation realm, and he had enough pills and magic tools for the next 2 years. He was in no hurry to choose. Because of perfected Master's approval, Lu Ping kept half of the 60 bottles of blood condensation realm pills he obtained. Because of the 5 bottles of core forging realm pills, he added another 10 bottles. Lu Ping kept 2,300 stalks of 500-year-old spiritual herbs and 40 stalks of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. As expected, these items attracted pill refiner Zhenling's attention. You're the kid who got lucky on Failing Island, right? Give me all your 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. I have a few bottles of blood condensation realm pills with me. It's enough for you to cultivate for a year. All right, I'll take the 500-year-old spiritual herbs with me too. I'll leave a few more bottles for you. Lu Ping looked at the man in front of him. He looked dignified, but in reality, he was full of arrogance. He said indifferently, I'm sorry, I still need these spiritual herbs for practice. I can't leave them for you. The arrogant pill refiner was choked to death. He pointed at Lu Ping and stammered, You, for a long time, but no words came out. Lu Ping turned around and left Tianling Mountain. He heard the pill refiner's exasperated voice coming from behind him. You bastard! You think you can become a pill refiner? Do you have a master's inheritance? Do you know the rules of the pill refiner profession? Who uses 500-year-old spiritual herbs and 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs for practice? What a joke. What a waste of resources. Kid, don't run. You're provoking a pill refiner. As long as you're in Zhenling, don't even think of getting a single pill refiner from Zhenling. Not far away, perfected Master Jiang Xinlin smiled bitterly and shook his head. He turned around and returned to his cave abode. Lu Ping didn't expect a pill refiner from his sect to be so domineering. Were all pill refiners in the cultivation world so domineering? It seemed like the high status of pill refiners had made them forget themselves. This time, Lu Ping had offended a pill refiner from Zhenling's sect. His future cultivation would be hindered. Fortunately, he had accumulated some resources, so he wouldn't be lacking in cultivation resources for the next 2 years. Moreover, he had obtained some pill refinement jade slips and even some pill recipes from Failing Island. Otherwise, it would have been really difficult for him to pass this stage. The soul-nurturing wood was a kind of spiritual item that had great effects on the recovery and nurturing of divine sense. Lu Ping used it to perform the soul-splitting secret technique to expand the strength of his divine sense. The soul-splitting secret technique was an extremely cruel secret technique. It required a person to tear a piece of their divine sense and nurture it in the soul-nurturing wood. Moreover, this secret technique could only be used once. When the torn piece of divine sense accumulated in the soul-nurturing wood had reached half of the cultivator's original divine sense, the split piece of divine sense would be fed back to the cultivator's original divine sense. Only then would the divine sense be expanded by half. Lu Ping had been practicing the soul-nurturing technique for more than a year. After breaking through to the third layer of the blood condensation realm, his divine sense had grown from 60 meters to 64 meters. Feeling the strands of divine sense leaving his body and wrapping around the soul-nurturing wood, Lu Ping finally experienced the pain of his soul being torn apart. It was the most primitive kind of pain that came from the inside out. Lu Ping felt that the phrase unbearable pain wasn't enough to describe his current state. When Lu Ping thought about how many more times he would have to experience this kind of pain, he couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. However, when he thought about the arrogant and domineering attitude of pill refiners, Lu Ping had no choice but to endure this kind of pain. Who asked him to not be controlled by others? Fortunately, Lu Ping had brought back a large amount of century-old spiritual herbs. He could use them to concoct blood-refining realm pills and use them to hone his alchemy skills. After returning to Huangli Island, Lu Ping quickly went into closed-door cultivation. The Ice River Formation was always active. After breaking through on Failing Island, Lu Ping had been in a constant state of tension. He was constantly on guard against the dangers around him. There was no time for systematic cultivation. Even when he recovered his spiritual energy, he had to rely on the help of the essence recovery pill. The cave abode was peaceful. After Lu Ping buried the 2 spirit gathering pearls in the spirit vein, they gradually fused with it. The density of the spiritual energy in the cave abode slowly increased. Although this state was very slow and subtle, Lu Ping would notice the obvious difference after a period of time. When the two condensed blood pearls completely fused with each other, he would be able to sit on 4 miniature spirit veins. His cultivation speed would also be greatly improved. As the biggest contributor to Lu Ping's trip to Failing Island, Debao went asleep as soon as he returned to Huangli Island. It was as if he wanted to pay back all the hard work he had done in the past 10 days. The sea turtle was very comfortable floating in the spirit spring in the cave abode. It was named Dague by Lu Ping. As Lu Ping's strongest pet, Lu Ping had already prepared a condensed blood pill for it to advance to the blood condensation realm. What made Lu Ping happy were the 3 green sea snake eggs. Under Lu Ping's meticulous care, the 3 treasures were finally on the verge of hatching. They were placed in the middle of the spirit spring and swayed from time to time, indicating that the population of the cave abode was about to increase. Chapter 107. In the only high-level cultivator's cave abode on Failing Island, Lu Ping obtained 5 treasures. The first was naturally the spirit forging pill. The second was the large spatial magic tool, 1,000 stalks of millet in a book. This magic tool was originally a spirit herb garden, but it was refined into a book by a powerful cultivator of Fei Ling sect. The spirit herb garden in this spatial magic tool was 5 acres in size, but only 1 acre was planted with spirit herbs. There were about 40,000-year-old spirit herbs and more than 300 500-year-old spirit herbs. Because these spirit herbs were inside the magic tool, during the treasure battle, Lu Ping didn't collect the spirit herbs inside the magic tool. Thus, the enlightened masters present didn't notice that Lu Ping had such a heaven-like magic tool. After returning to his cave abode, Lu Ping reopened the magic tool and placed it on top of his own spirit herb garden. However, the spirit herb garden in this magic tool could not be expanded. This magic tool could directly connect with the spirit vein and absorb spirit energy to make the spirit herbs grow. However, the spirit vein in Lu Ping's cave abode was only enough for Lu Ping's cultivation. It was not enough to support more consumption of this magic tool. Thus, the spirit herb garden in this magic tool could only be expanded to 1 acre in size. However, the mature spirit herbs had already been collected by Lu Ping and new spirit herbs were planted. The third treasure was the praying mat that Lu Ping was sitting on. Strictly speaking, this praying mat was a formation plate. The spirit energy it could gather was far more than the small spirit gathering array praying mat that Lu Ping obtained from Lin Sheng. The fourth treasure was a jade box covered with restrictions. Lu Ping had tried to remove the restrictions on it, but no matter if he used his spiritual sense or magic power, there was no movement from the restrictions. It was obvious that Lu Ping's cultivation was not high enough, which made Lu Ping quite depressed. The fifth treasure was the jade slip in Lu Ping's hand. This jade slip recorded a cultivation method called Art of Flying Spirits Treading the Sea. This method attracted Lu Ping because it had the same origin as the Art of Listening to Waves that Lu Ping cultivated. The method of cultivation was similar, but the final result was very different. The sea wave listening spell focused on the accumulation of magic power during cultivation. It pursued the magic power in the body to be like a great river that flowed into the sea. It was also like the sea. Under the calm surface, there was a great amount of energy. It was a kind of comprehension of water itself. It was a kind of king's cultivation method of water attribute. However, the art of soaring spirits ocean dance was different. It focused on the violent circulation of transcendence energy during cultivation. It pursued the transcendence energy within one's body to engulf everything like a raging torrent. It was also like an enraged sea that would stir up monstrous waves and destroy everything. It was a kind of mastery of water itself. It was an overbearing water attribute cultivation technique. Lu Ping kept trying to figure out the two methods, and he was more and more sure that the two methods had the same origin. There must be a close connection between the two, and they might even be the same method. Could it be that my sect's art of listening to waves itself was the inheritance of Failing Island? Thinking about how the art of listening to waves appeared in my sect and was gradually perfected, It was a Dharma plane cultivator from 3,000 years ago, Lao Tzu. It was after the destruction of Fei Ling's sect. Lu Ping's confidence increased a little. However, if these two cultivation methods were separated, then what was the reason for the separation? Lu Ping couldn't figure it out himself, so he might as well cultivate it himself and find out. Lu Ping circulated the two methods in his body at the same time, and he discovered that the two methods were like water from the same origin. The magic power produced quickly merged in his blood vessels, and there was no distinction between them. Strands of even thicker and purer magic power were born in his blood vessels and gathered in the condensed blood pearl in his core space. This newly born magic power was even purer and thicker than the magic power that Lu Ping had cultivated before, and it was even more powerful when it was circulated. It contained an explosive and destructive aura, which was clearly a characteristic of the art of flying spirits dancing the sea. These two methods were definitely a higher level of magic power. Lu Ping was now sure of this. However, due to the interaction between the two techniques, the circulation speed of the magic power was reduced by half. Although each strand of magic power that was produced was powerful, the amount of magic power that was produced was half compared to cultivating the waterfront wave listening mantra alone. In other words, when Lu Ping cultivated the two methods at the same time, the power and density of the magic power increased by half, but the speed of cultivation slowed down by 4 times. Lu Ping hesitated. By combining the two cultivation techniques, one's foundation would be more solid and their strength would be more powerful. However, the cultivation time would be 4 times longer. For cultivators who pursued longevity and were in a constant race against time, this was clearly a test. Perhaps this was the reason why the senior cultivators split this cultivation technique into 2. Lu Ping weighed the pros and cons, and finally decided to combine the two methods. Since there was a better one, why should he use the one that was one level lower? This was what Lu Ping thought. After Lu Ping returned to Huangli Island, he went into closed-door cultivation. He wanted to combine the two methods, and at the same time, he wanted to reorganize his third-layer blood condensation cultivation. He also wanted to recondense the 3 condensed blood pearls that were formed from cultivating the art of listening to waves, and replace them with the art of listening to waves that Lu Ping had named. This also meant that Lu Ping's cultivation would not improve in the near future. Because Lu Ping currently only had the art of listening to waves for the blood condensation stage, and the art of flying spirits dancing the sea was a complete technique for the late Dharma stage. Therefore, Lu Ping could only refine the art of listening to waves to the blood condensation stage, and the 8 arts of listening to waves became the 12 arts of North Sea. 4 of the 8 spells of the art of listening to waves for the blood condensation stage were the same as the 8 spells of the art of flying spirits dancing the sea for the blood condensation stage. This was also the basis for Lu Ping to confirm that the two came from the same source. Lu Ping cultivated the North Sea wave listening scripture again and replaced the 3 condensed blood pearls with the North Sea wave listening scripture, arcane energy. This was a long and arduous process. Lu Ping's previous cultivation speed was already quite fast, but now he wasn't in a rush. Under the protection of the Ice River Slaughter Array, he peacefully cultivated in seclusion. With the huge amount of century-old spiritual herbs, Lu Ping's alchemy skills finally had another breakthrough. Lu Ping had finally consolidated a 50% success rate for the late blood refining stage pills. All the blood refining pills in Huangli Island's Talisman Pavilion were refined by Lu Ping. After the sea ban was lifted, the cultivators finally passed the initial probing period. A large number of cultivators began to flood into the buffer zone, and the momentum was still expanding. Huangli Island gradually became prosperous. The cultivators who stayed on the island gradually changed from the blood refining realm to the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping, Hu Lili, and Chen Lian's shops also started to make profits. The 20,000 spirit stones that Lu Ping spent were also gradually being recovered. Li Ziming, Lin Shang, and the others who initially mocked Lu Ping for wasting spirit stones shut their mouths. They regretted not renting a few shops in the first place, but it was too late. The cultivator merchants with keen senses had already bought up all the shops on Huangli Island. In the beginning, Hu Lili was also skeptical about Lu Ping's generosity. Later on, she saw that Huangli Island was becoming more and more prosperous. First, Lu Ping went a failing island, then he went into closed-door cultivation after he came back. He didn't care about the shops at all, so Hu Lily had no choice but to take over. Soon, she became addicted to the feeling of earning spirit stones. She managed the 3 shops, including Chunlian's, in an orderly manner. Chunlian joked several times that Hu Lily was becoming more and more like a lady boss. At first, Hu Lily blushed, but later on, she just let it be. In the end, she even sneered at Chunlian, saying that she was willing to be a lady boss for so many spirit stones. This made Chunlian speechless. Li Ziming and his son were envious of the 3 people's properties in the market square. They knew that the 3 shops were nominally owned by the 3 people, but in fact, Lu Ping paid the rent alone. Therefore, after Lu Ping went a failing island, they hoped that Lu Ping would die on failing island. In this way, they could use some means to take over the 3 shops. Later, Lu Ping returned safely from failing island. The father and son were disappointed, so they came up with another plan. They reported to the sect that Huangli Island's market square was becoming more and more prosperous. They hoped that the sect could take back all the shops that were rented out and send cultivators to manage them for the sect. Li Ziming was quite clever. He knew that the large shops on the island had powerful backers and weren't people he could afford to offend. In his report, he only mentioned the scattered shops. These were small businesses of ordinary cultivators and wouldn't involve any major powers. His goal was naturally to deal with Lu Ping and the others. As for who would be sent to manage the shops after they were taken back, besides Li Ziming, who was currently in charge of Huangli Island, who else could it be? After Lu Ping heard about these matters from Hu Lily, he disdainfully smiled and said, "Let them be, there is no need to pay attention to them." Sure enough, after Li Ziming's report was submitted to Xinqi Island, Master Immortal Lu handed it over to Daoist Chu. Daoist Chu didn't even look at it and casually threw it away. Li Ziming's report disappeared. After Lu Ping returned to Xinqi Island, he gave all the jade slips about formations to Hu Lily as a gift. At the same time, he also gave the Water Mist Pavilion's cultivator a formation plate and a magic tool. This made Hu Lily quite happy, and she hurriedly brought these things back to her cave residence to study. As for Chenlian, Lu Ping directly gave him some of the spiritual materials he obtained on Failing Island as samples for him to study. This caused Chenlian to look at Lu Ping in confusion and ask, "Did you kill people on Failing Island and rob them?" This half-correct statement made Lu Ping quite depressed. He originally wanted to give Chenlian a high-grade crafting furnace, but he decided to wait for now. Although Chenlian's smithing skills weren't low, using a high-grade crafting furnace at the second layer of the blood condensation realm was still a bit difficult. Moreover, people would covet it in the future. Chapter 108. The 12th of April was the first day of the blood condensation realm auction on Dikuan Island. Due to the lifting of the sea restriction, the scale of this auction was unprecedented. Not only did the number of cultivators increase, but a batch of precious spiritual materials obtained by the cultivators who went out to sea for the past half a year would also be auctioned off. This greatly enriched the contents of the auction. Originally, Lu Ping didn't plan to attend this auction. His North Sea Wave listening technique was at a crucial point in refining his arcane energy. Moreover, Lu Ping didn't have any cultivation resources that he urgently needed. However, on the eve of the auction, Yao Yong, Du Feng, Shi Lingling, Zhong Jin, Ma Yu, Lung Qian, Niu Dazhuang, and Zheng Jiao all came to Huangli Island at the same time. Yao Yong and the others were naturally there to invite Lu Ping and Hu Lily to join them. Niu Dazhuang and Zheng Jia, on the other hand, were there to look for Hu Lily. Feeling embarrassed, Lu Ping had no choice but to come out of seclusion. He called Chanlian along, and the 11 of them headed to Dikuan Island. The auction hall was already packed with people. The multi-treasure pavilion quickly expanded the auction hall's size, but it was still crowded. Lu Ping looked around and estimated that there were more than 1,000 blood condensation realm cultivators in the auction hall. Shi Lingling complained, "Why are there so many people? If only we were in the blood refining realm, we could go straight to the VIP rooms. But now that we're in the blood condensation realm, we can't do that." The adults in my family think that my cultivation is too low and won't give me an invitation. They want me to attend with them. I won't. Everyone knew that Lingling's identity wasn't ordinary, and he was also the youngest among them. They smiled and listened to his complaints. Ever since the sea ban was lifted, everyone's cultivation base had improved. Not only had Lu Ping reached the third layer blood condensation realm, but Yao Yong, Du Feng, and Zhong Jin had also successfully broken through to the second layer. Although Ma Yu hadn't broken through to the third layer, she was already at the peak of the second layer. Hu Lili broke through to the blood condensation realm later, but she was now at the peak of the first layer. Lingling, Long Qian, Zhang Jie, and Yo Dazhuang had just advanced. Most of the cultivators attending the auction were at the mid-stage blood condensation realm and above. Early-stage blood condensation realm cultivators were rarely seen. After all, the auction was for elites or wealthy cultivators. Lingling and the other early-stage blood condensation realm minor repairs cultivators naturally weren't noticed by the management. Just when everyone was about paying the entrance fee of 500 spirit stones and going to a corner of the auction, ping of the auction hall, the entrance, and blood of the auction were sent. Of the auction. When the guard saw Lu Ping's invitation card, he ignored the fact that these cultivators were only early blood condensation realm cultivators and quickly said politely, "This is a VIP invitation card. You can enjoy the VIP room. Please follow me." Everyone looked at Lu Ping in surprise. Lu Ping shrugged and said, "I often buy things here. I'm familiar with the manager here, so I asked for an invitation." Lingling giggled and said, "As if I'd believe you." The group followed the pavilion of multi-treasures guard to a teleportation array. The guard said, "This teleportation array is specially built to keep the identities of our VIPs secret. Your invitation is the activation talisman for the teleportation array. It can send you to any room you want. Even our multi-treasures pavilion doesn't know the room number of your room." Everyone was impressed by the multi-treasures pavilion's meticulousness. When the 11 of them arrived at the teleportation array, the invitation in Lu Ping's hand flashed. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in room 19. Through the room, they could see the huge auction hall filled with thousands of blood condensation cultivators. After everyone found their seats, the stone table in the middle of the room suddenly flashed and 11 jade teacups appeared on it. Green smoke rose from the teacups. These were the cloud-opening tea that Lu Ping used to serve Hu Lili. At first, everyone was not used to this kind of setting, especially when Lu Ping had an invitation. Everyone was curious about his identity. Unknowingly, Lu Ping seemed to have become a stranger in their eyes. Even a simple and honest person like Niu Dazhuang was very reserved in this room. Hu Lili giggled and said, "This should be the trading platform used by the auction hall. After a cultivator makes a bid, they can place their spirit stones on this small teleportation platform. After the auction house receives the spirit stones, the items won by the cultivator will be sent to the room through the teleportation platform." As Hu Lili spoke, she passed the tea to everyone in the room. Hu Lili was knowledgeable and had a glib tongue. She was the best at adjusting the atmosphere. After a while, everyone in the room was chatting and laughing. Soon, they forgot about the invitation. Even Yo Dazhuang, Zhang Jie, and Chen Lian, the three new cultivators, quickly became familiar with each other. Actually, Lu Ping didn't have any special status. It was just that he had a record of spending money at the auction when he was still in the blood refining realm. After he entered the blood condensation realm, he had a few large transactions with the store of bountiful treasures. Steward Jia, who was in charge of his transactions, valued him very much and gave him an invitation. However, this invitation involved Xianling's sex, Qiao Shiping's 3 condensed blood pearls, so it wasn't convenient for Lu Ping to explain. The auction soon announced the start of the auction. Everyone in the room was attracted by the items that were going to be auctioned. Only Lu Ping didn't pay much attention to these things. He quietly cultivated in the room, condensing the arcane energy of the North Sea wave listening technique. At the same time, he opened the spirit beast pouch. 3 small snakes, each about a foot long, with crystal-clear surfaces, slithered out and coiled around Lu Ping's right hand. These 3 little snakes were hatched from Lu Ping's 3 green sea snake eggs. During the hatching process, Lu Ping had been using his arcane energy to strengthen the egg's vitality and shorten the hatching process. Therefore, the three little snakes were very familiar with and infatuated with Lu Ping's aura. They treated Lu Ping like their own parents. The three little snakes were green in color, blue in color, and white in color. Lu Ping named them Lu Bai, Lu Hai, and Lu Ling respectively, taking the meaning of green sea snake. When everyone in the room saw that Lu Ping had raised three snakes as spirit beast pets, a few ladies even ridiculed Lu Ping's bad taste for keeping such gloomy and terrifying demon beasts as spirit beasts. When everyone saw the three beautiful, crystal-like little snakes, they began to be amazed at the cuteness of the three spirit snakes. However, everyone had a natural fear of snakes, so they only looked at them from afar and didn't touch them. The young green sea snakes were not much different from ordinary snake demons. Therefore, among the crowd, even Hu Lily didn't realize that these three little snakes were the famous green sea snakes among the demon beasts. Lu Ping fed the three spirit snakes 3 pills that he had specially refined for them. He also fed them some of the young demon beast meat that he bought from a cultivator in the buffer zone. Seeing that the three little snakes were full and didn't move, Lu Ping kept them into his spirit beast pouch. At this time, the auction house was auctioning a high-grade flying sword. Lu Ping took a look and found that it was inferior to his soaring sword, so he felt a little disdainful. However, Hu Lily and the others were watching with great interest. 6,200 spirit stones. This fellow Taoist has bid 6,200 spirit stones. Are there any other fellow Taoists present who would like to bid? This is a high-grade fire attribute flying sword that was refined using high-grade spiritual material, fire iron. It's of high quality and is the first choice for blood condensation cultivators who cultivate fire attribute cultivation techniques. The auctioneer was Manager Jia, whom Lu Ping was familiar with. Yao Yong was quite interested in this flying sword. However, he was already Enlightened Master Chu Xuanqing's disciple. Enlightened Master Chu had already promised to reward him with a fire attribute high-grade magic artifact after he advanced to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. That was why he didn't participate in the auction. After Manager Jia's vigorous promotion, the flying sword was finally sold for 7,000 spirit stones. The next item is a top-grade pill suitable for early-stage blood condensation cultivators, the Green Miracle Pill. I believe that even if you haven't seen it before, you should have heard of it. It's one of the top-grade cultivation pills for early-stage blood condensation cultivators. Every pill is 50% more effective than an ordinary early-stage blood condensation cultivator's cultivation pill. I won't say anything else. 5 bottles of Green Miracle Pills will be auctioned together. The starting price is 6,000 spirit stones, and each increment must be no less than 100 spirit stones. Let's start the bidding now. As soon as Manager Jia finished speaking, Lu Ping's eyes lit up. This top-grade pill was exactly what he needed right now. Which early-stage blood condensation cultivator wouldn't drool over such a pill? Following the auctioneer's voice, the price of the 5 bottles of Green Miracle Pills was raised to 8,000 spirit stones. This price caused many early blood condensation cultivators to shrink back. 8,500 spirit stones. Lu Ping's bid once again shocked everyone in the private room. Hu Lily exclaimed, "Why do you need so many? Didn't you get quite a lot of pills on Failing Island? Besides, you're already at the 3rd layer of the blood condensation realm. The pills you have should be enough for you to reach the mid-stage blood condensation realm." Shilingling, Ma Yu, and the rest knew that Lu Ping had offended the sect's pill refinement master at Tianling Mountain. Hu Lily had been on Huangli Island for a long time, so she didn't have much information. After listening to Shilingling and the rest's explanation, she couldn't help but blame Lu Ping for not knowing how to be patient. In fact, Lu Ping wasn't just preparing for the possibility of trouble from the sect's pill refinement master. Lu Ping was practicing the North Sea wave listening technique again. He needed a large amount of pills to speed up the conversion and condensation of his arcane energy. After everyone knew the reason, they no longer tried to stop Lu Ping from bidding. In the end, the Green Miracle Pills were won by Lu Ping for 9,400 spirit stones. Lu Ping placed an interspatial pouch filled with spirit stones on the teleportation platform. Not long after the interspatial pouch disappeared, 5 exquisite jade bottles appeared on the teleportation platform. Lu Ping picked up the jade bottles, opened them, and admired the green medicinal pellets inside. His face lit up with joy. After the green miracle pills, the mid-stage and late-stage blood condensation realm cultivation pills were auctioned. When the crowd heard the bids going up to 10,000 spirit stones, they no longer felt that it was extravagant for Lu Ping to spend 9,000 spirit stones on the pills. At this moment, Manager Jia's smile suddenly disappeared. He said solemnly, "Everyone, as we all know, blood condensation cultivators need to replenish their bloodline before they can break through the bottleneck of the middle and late stages of the blood condensation realm. Therefore, every cultivator needs to find a bloodline that is compatible with their foundation bloodline and the cultivation technique they are cultivating." Chapter 109. Manager Jia's calm and collected speech attracted the attention of most of the cultivators present. He continued, "There are generally 3 ways to replenish one's bloodline. The first way is to purchase a bloodline of the same attribute from a cultivator of the same level, which was expelled during the hemolysis process. However, it takes a lot of time and transcendence energy to replenish the transcendence energy within the bloodline. The second way is to concoct a barrier-breaking pill from a cultivator of the same attribute with various rare spirit herbs. This way, the recovery time of the bloodline will be greatly reduced. The third way is the most convenient and most effective. It is to directly obtain a hemolytic bead from a cultivator of the same attribute and fuse it with the transcendence energy within the bloodline. However, this method is the most difficult to achieve. Not only does it require a life and death battle between the cultivator and the demonic beast, both cultivators and demonic beasts will shatter the space in their cores before they die, causing the condensed blood pearl to collapse. Therefore, obtaining a condensed blood pearl is extremely difficult. Furthermore, the condensed blood pearl must be of the same attribute as the cultivator. Manager Jia saw that everyone was listening to him attentively. His tone changed and he continued, "However, even though it is extremely difficult to obtain a condensed blood pearl, we have managed to obtain several condensed blood pearls of different attributes and cultivation levels through various channels. Fellow Taoists, please take a look and bid for them." Amidst the gasps of the cultivators in the auction hall, a young female cultivator brought a brocade box to the hands of the auctioneer. When the box was opened, 3 condensed blood pearls the size of soybeans could be seen. Manager Jia said, 3 condensed blood pearls of the Peng bloodline, suitable for cultivators of the 3rd layer of the blood condensation realm who have Peng bloodlines of wind, water, or dual attributes to break through to the early stage of the blood condensation realm. The starting price is 15,000 spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 500 spirit stones. Everyone, please place your bids. Just as Manager Jia finished speaking, the cultivators in the auction hall began to shout out their bids. 16,000 spirit stones, 17,000 spirit stones, 18,000 spirit stones. I'll take it. These 3 condensed blood beads were the condensed blood beads that Lu Ping had entrusted the multi-treasure pavilion to auction off from Qiao Shipeng. Lu Ping didn't expect an early blood refining realm condensed blood bead to drive the cultivators into such a frenzy. He stared blankly at the auction. Shi Lingling and the others, on the other hand, were admiring the bids and the red-faced expressions of the cultivators in the auction hall. For them, the most important thing in this auction was to increase their knowledge, not to participate in the auction. Even with their financial resources, they could not participate in it. Take Hu Lily, for example. In terms of knowledge, no one in the private room could compare to her. But when it came to real treasures and spirit materials, Hu Lily's knowledge came from jade scrolls and books, while Lu Ping's knowledge came from the real thing. Thus, even though Hu Lily already knew the items in the auction hall, she still couldn't take her eyes off them. On the other hand, Lu Ping had long lost interest in the auction hall. In the end, the 3 condensed blood pearls were won by a cultivator in a private room for 21,000 spirit stones. Half an hour later, the transportation platform in room 19 flashed, and a bag of spirit stones appeared on it. Lu Ping took the bag and looked at it. Then, He nonchalantly transferred the spirit stones inside into his storage ring. The auction continued. 2 more condensed blood pearls were auctioned off. The first was for 2 fourth-layer condensed blood pearls, which were even more ideal for breaking through to the mid-blood condensation realm than third-layer condensed blood pearls. They were sold for a high price of 28,000 spirit stones. The second auction was for 6 sixth-layer condensed blood pearls. They were sold to a cultivator in the first private room for a whopping price of 66,000 spirit stones. This made Sure Lingling and the others exclaim in admiration. Manager Jia of the Bountiful Treasures Pavilion inadvertently revealed to the crowd that some of the condensed blood pearls came from the demon territory after the sea restrictions were lifted. This caused a huge commotion among the cultivators. Lu Ping and the others could already imagine that after the auction, the number of cultivators entering the demon territory would reach a new peak. As expected, the following items in the auction were all specialties from the demon territory. Large quantities of high-quality skin, tendons, bones, meat, and blood from mid- and late blood condensation realm demonic beasts were auctioned off. The unique spirit herbs, spirit materials, and spirit ores from the demon territory also shocked the cultivators. Under Manager Jia's instigation, the demon territory had become a paradise for cultivators to strike it rich. They selectively ignored the dangers of the demon territory. Fellow Taoists, the next auction item is a high-grade defensive magic artifact. As the manager spoke, he took a light blue shield from the hands of a young female cultivator beside him. He then introduced, this water-repellent shield was refined using the condensed blood bead of a demon beast in the sea and the high-grade water attribute spirit material, glazed crystal iron. It's a rare high-quality high-grade defensive magic tool, and it can give the cultivator using it a true sense of security. Lu Ping ignored Manager Jia's incessant introduction and asked Chunlian directly, "What do you think of this magic artifact?" When Chunlian heard Lu Ping's question, he knew that Lu Ping lacked a defensive magic artifact. After listening to Manager Jia's introduction, he was probably tempted. Chunlian carefully looked at the water-repellent shield in Manager Jia's hands and said with a hint of regret, "This magic artifact is not bad among high-grade magic artifacts. However, due to the forging method, it will be difficult to upgrade it to a top-grade magic artifact in the future." Lu Ping nodded and said, "It's fine if it can't be upgraded. It's just a transition anyway. With a tool refiner like you by my side, do I have to worry about not having a top-grade magic artifact in the future?" Chunlian hurriedly shook his head and said, "Don't. Although I know the forging method for top-grade magic artifacts, with my current second-layer blood condensation realm cultivation, it will be difficult for me to forge high-grade magic artifacts. If you want to forge a top-grade magic artifact, you should look for my old man." Lu Ping smiled and said, "I can't use top-grade mystic instruments yet, but when I'm able to use top-grade mystic instruments, maybe you, Great Blacksmith Chun, won't be able to refine top-grade mystic instruments anymore." Chunlian curled his lips and said, "With your cultivation speed, I'm afraid that by the time you reach the late blood condensation realm, I'll be lucky if I can reach the mid-blood condensation realm." Chunlian's words immediately resonated with everyone in the private room. They all criticized Lu Ping's unimaginable cultivation speed and how he left his friends far behind. Zhongjian said, "I don't know how you cultivate, but not only is your cultivation speed fast, your spiritual energy is also strong. You can already use high-grade magic artifacts with ease at the third layer of the blood condensation realm. I'm afraid that we will only be able to use high-grade magic artifacts normally after we reach the mid-blood condensation realm." Everyone felt the same way. Lu Ping only smiled silently. Others didn't know that he had already changed his cultivation technique to the North Sea Wave listening technique. In the future, his cultivation speed would probably be greatly reduced, and he would fall behind others. Of course, Lu Ping was also confident that even if his cultivation fell behind others, his strength wouldn't decrease. Instead, it would increase by a lot. The water-repellent shield started with a starting price of 5,000 spirit stones. The minimum requirement for a high-grade magic artifact was around 3,000 spirit stones. Defensive magic artifacts were naturally more expensive. However, even though the water-repellent shield was of good quality, it could no longer be improved. Hence, The starting price was only 5,000 spirit stones. In the blink of an eye, the bidding price had already risen to 8,000 spirit stones. Lu Ping thought for a moment and directly called out a bid of 9,000 spirit stones. After Lu Ping's bid came out, the bidding quieted down. When someone else called out another bid, the number of people had already decreased by more than half. Clearly, the identity of the cultivator in the private room still made the cultivators in the private room apprehensive. 9,200 spirit stones. Lu Ping looked at the middle of the private room and saw a middle-aged cultivator in the mid-blood condensation realm. Who else could it be other than Li Ziming? Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Lu Ping smiled silently. Hu Lily was observing Lu Ping's expression. When she saw the change in his expression, she also looked at the middle of the private room and smiled. What a coincidence! Everyone asked for the reason, and Hu Lily told them about the incident between the Li family and Lu Ping on Huangli Island. Yao Yong muttered, "The Li family is considered a medium-sized dependent family in Zhenling. It's said that they have 2 core forging realm cultivators. Junior martial brother, you have to be careful in the future. Don't fall into the schemes of despicable people." Shi Lingling said disdainfully, "It's just a small Li family. What can they do to an inner disciple of our sect?" This junior martial brother Li Chang is also a little famous in the group. His cultivation speed isn't slow either. I heard that he's about to break through to the blood condensation realm, but he's so narrow-minded. It's just a ranking competition. Why bother about it until now? Everyone couldn't help but look at each other with a bitter smile. From Shi Lingling's usual behavior, everyone could tell that her status in the sect was not simple. Moreover, she was young and inexperienced. She could ignore the Li clan, but the others had to consider the weight of the Li clan's 2 core forging enlightened masters. Lu Ping looked at Li Ziming's expressionless bid and said calmly, 9,500 spirit stones. Li Ziming paused for a moment, as if he was calculating something, and then hesitantly quoted a price of 9,600 spirit stones. Everyone could tell from his tone that Li Ziming's price had reached the limit. Lu Ping didn't hesitate to increase the bid by 10,000 spirit stones. Li Ziming heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Lu Ping frowned and saw Li Ziming turn around to look at Lu Ping's private room. Li Ziming's expression revealed a hint of joy, surprise, mockery, and even a hint of pride. Hu Lily had been paying attention to the scene since Lu Ping and Li Ziming started fighting. She also saw Li Ziming's expression, so she turned to look at Lu Ping. Lu Ping smiled helplessly at her. "I'm afraid we fell into his trap." Hu Lily nodded. "It should be the Li family's own magic tool?" Everyone quickly asked for the reason. After listening to Hu Lily's explanation, they all said it was a pity and scolded Li Ziming for being cunning. Lu Ping didn't take it to heart. This kind of method wasn't despicable. If it was his own item being auctioned, he would have raised the price several times. Profit was always like this. After a while, Lu Ping paid the spirit stones and received the water repellent shield. Chun Lian held it in his hand and inspected it. Although the price is a bit high, the quality of this magic tool is not bad. 10,000 spirit stones is not a loss. Chapter 110. Everyone, the next item to be auctioned is a batch of high-quality spirit ores. First, I'll bring 100 caddies of refined high-grade spirit material, spirit impassive soil. Qinlian heard about the spirit impassive soil and smiled at Lu Ping. "It's our turn." Lu Ping laughed, and Hu Lily asked, "Where did you get the spirit impassive soil? How come I don't know about it?" Qinlian said, "Junior martial brother Lu found some spirit impassive soil ores, and I helped him refine it. There's quite a lot of it, so I'm planning to auction some." Shi Lingling rolled her eyes at Lu Ping and said, "There's quite a lot of good stuff." Everyone else felt the same way. Manager Jia continued to introduce, "This 100 caddies of refined spirit impassive soil is refined from 1,000 caddies of spirit impassive soil ores. Through the method of refining, the person who refined it has a good foundation in tool refining. This 100 caddies of refined spirit impassive soil is also very pure, and it's a good material for refining high-grade earth attribute defensive magic tools. The starting price is 4,000 spirit stones, and each increment is no less than 100 spirit stones. Everyone, please bid. Spirit impassive soil was a type of spirit or commonly used to refine earth attribute defensive magic tools. The quality of defensive magic tools made from it was also quite high. Adding another 100 caddies of spirit impassive soil was enough to refine 2 high-grade magic tools. Therefore, it attracted many cultivators to bid, and the price quickly rose from 4,000 to 7,000 spirit stones. At this moment, Chunlian suddenly said, "Oh no." Everyone was shocked and quickly asked what was going on. Chunlian smiled bitterly. "One of the cultivators bidding below is my father." Lu Ping heard this and looked at the red-faced elder who just bid 7,200 spirit stones. Who else could it be but Old Chun? Coincidentally, one of the cultivators bidding against Old Chun was Li Ziming, the one who accidentally tricked Lu Ping with the water-repellent shield. At this moment, Chunlian helplessly smiled at Lu Ping and said, "If my father knows that we earned his spirit stones, he'll definitely think of a way to get back at us." Everyone found it funny. This time, it was a coincidence. Lu Ping gestured for them to calm down. Next, he brought out the VIP invitation card from the Bountiful Treasures Pavilion and said a few words into it. Next, he formed a few hand seals and light flashed out from the surface of the invitation card. As everyone was wondering what Lu Ping was doing, one of the attendants from the Bountiful Treasures Pavilion walked over to Elder Chen's seat and said something. Elder Chen then cast a surprised glance at the private room where Lu Ping and the others were seated. After that, he sat down and stopped bidding. Shi Lingling and the others all asked Lu Ping what was going on. Lu Ping held the invitation in his hand and said, "It's nothing much. This invitation can be used as a voice transmission talisman to communicate with the Bountiful Treasures Pavilion at any time during the auction. It's just a privilege of being a VIP." But Chunlian said, "Do you still have spirit ash soil? Otherwise, I'm afraid it'll be hard to explain to my old man." Lu Ping smiled and said, "Don't worry, I still have some." At this time, Li Ziming's bid had already reached 7,500 spirit stones. There were only a few cultivators competing with him. Lu Ping suddenly said, "I bid 7,600 spirit stones." Everyone in the private room looked at Lu Ping in surprise. Naturally, they knew that Lu Ping wanted to take revenge for Li Ziming's scheme. Zhang Jia, who hadn't spoken up until now, suddenly said, "This debt of 6 months can be repaid quickly." Hu Lily was afraid that Lu Ping would misunderstand. Niu Datwang scratched his head and said, "Heh, this Li guy is a good-for-nothing. He deserves to be screwed over this time." Lu Ping turned his head and smiled at Niu Datwang. He continued to observe Li Ziming's bid. Li Ziming had obviously been eyeing this 100 gene of spirit ash soil for a long time. He had already raised his bid to 8,000 spirit stones. Chunlian reminded, "That's about it. 8,000 spirit stones should be the limit of this 100 gene of spirit ash soil. Any higher, and it'll scare people away." Lu Ping pondered for a moment and agreed with Chunlian's suggestion. At this time, Old Man Chen suddenly shouted, 8,100 spirit stones. Chunlian anxiously said, "What's going on? Why is this old man going at it again? Didn't I tell him not to bid?" Lu Ping looked at Old Man Chen's indifferent face and said, "Don't worry. The old man must have discovered something. Otherwise, with his experience, why would he do something he's not sure of?" Only then did Chunlian calm down. He understood that his old man was above him in both experience and other aspects. Why would he do something irrational for no reason? Sure enough, Li Ziming, who was calm at first, became slightly annoyed when he heard Old Man Chen's bid. He turned his head and glanced at Old Man Chen. Obviously, Li Ziming knew Old Man Chen, one of the top blacksmiths on Dikuan Island. He knew that Old Man Chen's background was not simple. Li Ziming fiercely turned his head back and raised the bid to 8,500 spirit stones. Everyone praised the old man's skill. Lu Ping pondered for a moment and said to Chunlian, "Old man won't be troubled by the Li clan because of this, right?" Chunlian indifferently said, "Why would they? It's natural for blacksmiths to bid for blacksmithing materials. Even if they want to cause trouble, our Chen clan will not be afraid of them." Lu Ping knew that Qinlian's clan was backed by a Jinling core forging enlightened master. Their background was probably even thicker than the Li clan's. Half an hour later, the 8,000 spirit stones were transferred to the private room. Qinlian happily took out 4,000 spirit stones. Lu Ping had 100,000 spirit stones now, so 4,000 spirit stones was nothing to him. But for early blood condensation realm cultivators like Qinlian, it was not a small fortune. After a few spirit materials were auctioned off, Manager Jia brought out another spirit material and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on display is a top-grade spirit material, deep-sea silver iron. This top-grade spirit material was obtained by a cultivator while exploring the outer sea. I have to say, after the sea restriction was lifted, the outer sea became a paradise for adventuring cultivators. Even a top-grade spirit material like this is often brought to the bountiful treasure pavilion by cultivators to be sold. Top-grade spiritual material, deep-sea silver iron. The starting price is 10,000 spirit stones, and each increment must be no less than 500 spirit stones. Please bid." Qinlian suddenly said excitedly, "Little Lu, you have to get this deep-sea silver iron. It will be very useful for your high-grade magic artifact, landslide." Lu Ping said doubtfully, "This deep-sea silver iron is also a top-grade spiritual material with the same attribute as the deep-sea cold iron. I already have the deep-sea cold iron, so I don't need this deep-sea silver iron." Qinlian still said excitedly, "It's not that simple. This time, Multi-Treasure Pavilion really made a mistake." Qinlian, who was dancing with joy, ignored the astonishment of the people in the private room and said, "Top-grade spirit materials are also divided into grades. The so-called top-grade spirit materials are only used to refine top-grade magic tools, allowing the magic tool to have the possibility of becoming a magic treasure. And this possibility is also divided into different grades." Qinlian excitedly walked back and forth in the private room, then explained to the crowd, "Generally speaking, top-grade spiritual materials can be divided into 3 grades. Grade 1 spiritual materials are the most common of top-grade spiritual materials, like deep-sea cold iron, deep-sea silver iron, and other natural minerals. Grade 2 spiritual materials are natural minerals that have been purified by external forces, and their quality has improved and mutated. For example, 1,000-year-old peachwood is only a grade 1 top-grade spiritual material. If 1,000-year-old peachwood is still able to grow after being struck by lightning, it will be a grade 2 top-grade spiritual material. After being used to forge magic artifacts, its quality will be much higher than a top-grade magic artifact made from a grade 1 spiritual material." Hearing this, Lu Ping's heart stirred. Among the spiritual materials he had obtained in the secret room of the refining hall on Fei Ling Island, there was 1,000-year-old lightning-struck peachwood. Qinlian's explanation pulled Lu Ping back from his thoughts. Grade 3 spiritual materials are even more mystical. They are spiritual materials condensed from spiritual objects that have lost their spirituality and degenerated. They are the highest grade of top-grade spiritual materials, and also the best choice for forging magic artifacts. Their rarity is only below that of spiritual objects. Shi Lingling impatiently said, "You've been talking for so long. What does it have to do with the spiritual material on the stage? Right now, the bidding price has reached nearly 20,000 spirit stones, and your father is also bidding." Qinlian looked at the crowd and saw that Elder Chen was also bidding, so he breathed a sigh of relief and continued, "I'm saying all this to tell everyone that this piece of deep-sea cold iron is not an ordinary grade 1 top-grade spiritual material, but a type of top-grade 2 top-grade spiritual material that has mutated due to external forces." Qinlian turned to look at Lu Ping and said, "Originally, whether you use deep-sea cold iron or deep-sea cold iron to upgrade your landslide to a top-grade magic artifact, the difference is not too big. But if you use this kind of mutated deep-sea cold iron to upgrade your landslide, not only will it be more powerful, but when you advance to the core forging stage in the future, it will not be difficult for you to upgrade it to a magic artifact." Lu Ping was very tempted to hear this, but at this time, the auction was still going on. Elder Chen obviously recognized that this piece of deep-sea cold iron was not an ordinary top-grade spiritual material, so he was still bidding at a moderate pace. So, Lu Ping was not in a hurry and asked, "How can you be sure that this piece of deep-sea cold iron is not an ordinary deep-sea cold iron, but a type of mutated deep-sea cold iron?" Chun Lian smiled proudly and said, "When my father helped enlightened Yin Nanfei condense a magic artifact, he once saw this kind of mutated deep-sea cold iron. At that time, that piece of deep-sea cold iron was immersed in a kind of mysterious spirit water of heaven and earth for a long time, which caused the mutation. At that time, enlightened Yin Nanfei also used that mysterious spirit water to successfully break through the core forging stage and enter the fourth forging stage." Lu Ping knew that enlightened Yin Nanfei was the person that Elder Qin saved in the past, and he was the biggest backer behind the Qin family, as well as one of the island's enlightened masters. At this time, the bidding price of the deep-sea cold iron had reached 30,000 spirit stones, which was already the limit of ordinary top-grade spiritual materials. At this time, Elder Chen was also looking at the bidding price and frowning. Chen Lian saw his father's expression and turned to Lu Ping and said, "It seems that there are other people in the auction hall who can recognize the value of this item. I'm afraid that my father only has so many spirit stones in his hands. If the price is higher, my father will not be able to afford it." Lu Ping nodded and called a price that once again made everyone in the private room dumbfounded: 40,000 spirit stones. Chapter 111. After the trip to Flying Spirit Island and the rewards from the sect, Lu Ping had about 120,000 spirit stones on him. With the addition of the condensed blood bead and the spirit ash soil from the auction, Lu Ping's net worth was close to 150,000 spirit stones. Excluding the water repellent shield and the green miracle pill, Lu Ping still had 130,000 spirit stones on hand. Thus, it was not a problem for him to take out 40,000 spirit stones to buy this second-grade spiritual material. However, Lingling and the others in the private rooms did not know about Lu Ping's background. They all felt that his bid of 40,000 spirit stones was inconceivable. Although Chen Lian and Hu Lily had a deeper understanding of Lu Ping, they also thought that 40,000 spirit stones was already Lu Ping's limit. Hu Lily said anxiously, "Why did you raise the price so high all of a sudden? Shouldn't you at least leave some spirit stones for emergencies?" After saying this, she gave Chun Lian a reproachful look. Chun Lian was a bit hesitant, but under the pressure of Hu Lily, he still advised, "Brother, take it easy. Although 40,000 spirit stones for a second-grade spiritual material is still profitable, I'm afraid it will arouse suspicion." Lu Ping pointed at Old Man Chen. Chun Lian looked over suspiciously, but after hearing Lu Ping's bid, Old Man Chun seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Thus, Old Man Chen chuckled and said no more. Manager Jia seemed to have sensed something. During a break in the auction, he hurriedly called over a shop assistant and gave a few instructions. The shop assistant then hurried to the back of the auction hall. At this time, the cultivator in private room 13 who had bid against Old Man Chun seemed to be hesitant because of Lu Ping's sudden bid. After a long time, he finally made a bid of 42,000 spirit stones. 45,000 spirit stones. Lu Ping said decisively, taking advantage of his victory. The cultivator in private room 13 finally gave up and did not make another bid. Manager Jiao wanted to say a few more words to stall for time, so that the shop assistant backstage could report to him. However, Lu Ping had already seen all of this and said directly, "If no other fellow Taoists bid, can Manager Jia announce that I am the winner of this spiritual material?" Manager Jia, who was seen through, was indeed a businessman. He laughed and said, "Of course. Congratulations to the distinguished guest in room 19 for winning a piece of deep-sea silver." As soon as Manager Jia finished speaking, the staff backstage hurriedly rushed to Manager Jia's side and whispered something into his ear. Manager Jia's expression remained calm after listening, but Lu Ping could tell from the corner of his eyes that Manager Jia was probably filled with regret and hatred at the moment. Sure enough, Manager Jia then praised, "Honored guest number 19 has a keen eye. I hope that everyone here will bid for the items that you like as much as honored guest number 19. After all, spirit stones can be earned, but if you miss out on precious spiritual materials, you won't know when you'll see them again." That's right. That's right. Lu Ping did not mind Manager Jia's double entendre. The Multi-Treasures Pavilion was so famous among the cultivators naturally had its own rules. Manager Jia was just feeling a little jealous. If he had discovered earlier that this was a second-grade spiritual material, it would definitely be worth more than 45,000 spirit stones. The auction continued, and large transactions continued. It was clear to Lu Ping that he was only an early blood condensation cultivator. There were many blood condensation cultivators who were richer than him. Once again, Lu Ping's attention was drawn away from his cultivation. The auction was about to auction a pill master's inheritance. This was also an inheritance found in a cultivator's cave in the buffer zone after the sea restriction was lifted. Now, not only were the cultivators who were encouraged by Manager Jia to bid, but even Lu Ping himself felt that there were many opportunities in the open sea. He could not help but want to explore it. This inheritance was left behind by a blood condensation pill master. It recorded a few blood condensation pill recipes. The starting price was set at 20,000 spirit stones. Once again, people marveled at the transcendent status of pill masters. Lu Ping was also interested in this. He tried to bid twice, and the price quickly rose to 40,000 spirit stones. Lu Ping felt that it was not worth it, so he gave up. In the end, the inheritance was won by a pill master from Zhonling for 50,000 spirit stones. Just as the auction was nearing its end, another item attracted Lu Ping's attention. Therefore, this restriction-breaking talisman made by a core forging enlightened master is very effective in breaking all kinds of restrictions below the core forging realm. It is a must-have item for fellow Taoists when they are out on an adventure. It is a necessary guarantee for fellow Taoists to not return empty-handed. One core forging restriction-breaking talisman. Starting price is 20,000 spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 500 spirit stones. Please feel free to bid. As soon as Manager Jia finished speaking, Lu Ping made a bid of 25,000 spirit stones. Zhong Jian asked curiously, "Why do you want to buy this thing?" Yao Yong's eyes lit up. "Did you find a cave dwelling? Or are you planning to go to the buffer zone and the monster territory to hunt for demonic beasts?" Du Feng, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said, "Count me in." Lu Ping laughed involuntarily. "I have been in seclusion recently, so I have no plans to go to the monster territory. However, today's auction made me look forward to the outer endless sea." However, the talisman was closely related to talismans, so Lu Ping could understand some things from the jade talisman. The auction was nearing its end, and the last item pushed the auction to its climax. There were top-grade magic tools and some pills for breaking through to the core forging realm. However, these items were suitable for late blood condensation cultivators, so Lu Ping had no use for them. Moreover, the price of the items was around 80,000 spirit stones, which made Lu Ping feel helpless. After the auction, Lu Ping returned to Huangli Island's cave dwelling and began his secluded cultivation. In the cultivation room of Lu Ping's cave dwelling, faint spiritual energy was emitted from the spirit vein, filling every corner of the cave dwelling. Lu Ping sat on a white praying mat, holding the jade box he obtained from Feiling Island in his hand. Lu Ping infused his arcane energy into the talisman he bought from the auction. At the same time, he made 16 hand seals in a row. The talisman immediately turned into a 5-colored ray of light that brushed against the jade box's seal. Part of the seal on the jade box melted away like snow in hot water, while the other part crackled like firecrackers. After the ray of light faded, the jade box returned to normal. Lu Ping opened the jade box and saw 2 purple jade slips neatly placed inside. One of them was glowing. When Lu Ping picked it up and used his divine sense to examine it, it was blocked by the glow on the surface of the jade slip. Lu Ping was slightly disappointed. This jade slip didn't have any restrictions on it, but it was a special jade slip made by core forging cultivators using their divine sense. Only when a cultivator reached the core forging realm and their divine sense transformed into divine sense would they be able to see the contents of the jade slip. Lu Ping used his divine sense to examine the other jade slip. This time, there wasn't any obstruction. If the jade slip was not specially made, it could be seen with divine sense. Natal Gentian diagram. This was a legacy jade slip that recorded the refinement and upgrading of a natal Dharma treasure. However, this natal Dharma treasure was not refined in one piece, but in a set. Not only a set, but also a formation diagram to form a natal Dharma treasure. Lu Ping had never heard of this method of refining natal magic tools and magic treasures. This natal magic tool used the array diagram as the core and the 12 natal magic tools as the pillars of the array. Once the natal magic tool was used in a fight, the array diagram would be used for defense, and the 12 Genshin magic tools would form a killing array. It was extremely powerful. However, the refining of this array was quite difficult. Chapter 112. Time flies when one cultivates. Two dazzling rainbows suddenly streaked across the peaceful demon territory's territorial waters. Two cultivators were traveling side by side. One of the younger cultivators said as he flew, "Big Brother Huang, the demon territory's territorial waters are in chaos. The sects of the North Sea have already sent their cultivators deep into the demon territory's territorial waters. The overturning seas gang's influence is growing more and more rampant. Why did young Master AI ask us to split up and not move together?" Big Brother Huang smiled. Young Master AI is a genius. How could I guess even a fraction of what he's thinking? However, I believe that young Master AI must have something important to do, and he doesn't want to attract the attention of other forces. That's why he asked us to split up. As for the specifics, young Master AI will give us instructions when we arrive at Flying Wave Reef. However, Brother Chung, we can be attacked by demonic beasts at any time in the demon territory's territorial waters. It's better to be careful so that we don't attract attention and expose our whereabouts. Cultivator Ching nodded and said no more. At this moment, Big Brother Huang sniffed and asked in confusion, "What's this smell? Why is it so fragrant?" When Cultivator Chung heard this, he carefully sniffed the air. Sure enough, there was a faint fragrance mixed in. Although the fragrance was very faint, it greatly stimulated one's sense of smell, inducing a sense of hunger from one's heart. Cultivator Cheng's expression changed. "Big Brother Huang, hold your breath. Be careful of the poison." Big Brother Huang frowned as if thinking about something. He smiled and said, "Brother Chung, it's fine. This fragrance is emitted by a strange pill called the hunger-swallowing pill. If mortals smell this fragrance, they will feel a deep sense of hunger. If they don't eat, they will starve to death. However, if they eat, they will feel hungrier and hungrier. The more they eat, the more they eat, and the more they eat, the more they eat. In the end, they will die from overeating, and the dead will think that they died of starvation. However, this pill doesn't have much effect on us cultivators." Cultivator Chung heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he asked doubtfully, "If this pill doesn't have any effect on cultivators, then who would use it?" Big Brother Huang said, "Although this pill is harmless to blood condensation cultivators like us, it is effective against blood condensation demonic beasts. Although blood condensation realm demonic beasts have already gained sentience, other than some talented ones, most blood condensation realm demonic beasts still possess a strong bestial nature. This bestial nature is often triggered by the temptation of the hunger crush pill, and the hidden demonic beasts will be lured out. If a cultivator were to set up an ambush near the place where the hunger crush pill is placed, it would be a good way to hunt down the demonic beasts." As soon as Big Brother Huang finished speaking, the rumbling of spells and the cries of demon beasts came from several miles away. The two of them looked at each other and flew toward a coral reef in front of them. When the two of them were about 1,000 feet away from the coral reef, they could clearly see that the combatants on the island were a young cultivator of about 20 years of age and a flying demon beast that was circling around the coral reef. Cultivator Chung saw that the young cultivator was only at the 5th layer of the blood condensation realm, while the flying demon beast was at the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm, close to the late blood condensation realm. Big Brother Huang hurriedly reached out and pulled Cultivator Chung back. Looking at Cultivator Cheng's questioning gaze, Big Brother Huang didn't say anything and only gestured for him to continue watching. By then, the young cultivator had seemingly noticed their arrival. He turned to look at them, and the hand seals he formed changed. Next, The water vapor within a radius of over 100 zhang around the coral island converged upon the young cultivator. In just a short period of time, the entire coral island was covered by a thick mist of water vapor. Cheng Huang and Cheng Feng, who were standing outside the coral island, were incapable of seeing anything within the mist. They could only hear rustling sounds coming from inside, like the sound of a storm. The rustling sounds came and went, accompanied by the cries of the flying demon beast. After a while, the sound of rain on the coral island remained the same, but the cries of the flying demon beast gradually became mournful. This caused Cultivator Cheng and Cultivator Huang, who didn't know what was happening inside, to look at each other in dismay. A chill ran down their spines. Finally, after a long, mournful cry, the mist on the island dissipated. The young cultivator stood on the island unharmed, smiling at Cultivator Cheng and Cultivator Huang. At the same time, a flying demon beast with a wingspan of 3 feet had fallen in front of Lu Ping, dying. The leaves and branches of the surrounding plants were densely packed with needle holes. Cultivator Huang cupped his fists and said, "Fellow Taoist, we were just passing by and were attracted by your hunger-swallowing pill. We came to take a look. We bear no ill will." The young cultivator smiled and nodded. Lu Qi, I have some grudges with this bird, and this can be considered as revenge. I didn't expect it to attract you two here." Cultivator Chang looked at the demon beast on the ground with envy and a trace of fear. "Fellow Taoist is powerful. This kind of demon beast is the most troublesome for us cultivators. Not only is it unparalleled in flying, but it also holds grudges. Once a cultivator is entangled by it, even a late blood condensation cultivator will have a headache. I didn't expect fellow Taoist to capture it alive. I'm impressed." Lu Qi waved his hand. "Fellow Taoist is too kind." Lu Qi saw that the two of them were still talking. One was standing on the coral island, while the other was hovering above the sea. They were separated by more than 100 feet. He felt uncomfortable and said, "If you two have time, you can come to the island for a chat. I have some spirit tea here for you." As soon as Lu Qi said those words, he regretted it. The sea was vast, and danger lurked in every corner. If he rashly invited someone to be his guest, it would arouse unnecessary suspicion from the other party. As expected, Cultivator Cheng's expression tensed when he heard Lu Ping's invitation. On the other hand, Cultivator Huang's expression didn't change. He smiled gently and said, "We still have important matters to attend to, so it's inconvenient for us to stay. Please forgive us, fellow Taoist." Seeing that the two were about to leave, Lu Qi hurriedly said, "I was being rude. I was chased by a demon beast before, and when I escaped to this island, I was intercepted by this demon beast and almost lost my life. It's been more than 3 years since I recovered from my injuries. When I was fleeing, I was panicking and lost my way in this sea. I don't know where I am right now. Therefore, when I saw the two of you, I rashly invited you because I wanted to ask about the location of this place and the situation of the humans and demons in the North Sea for the past 3 years." Hearing Lu Qi's explanation, Cultivator Cheng's expression relaxed a bit. Seeing Cultivator Huang nod slightly, the two landed on Coral Island and lingered for a while. 2 hours later, Cultivator Cheng and Cultivator Huang took their leave. After a while, Lu Qi also left Coral Island and descended towards the sea. A huge sea turtle floated up from the sea and carried Lu Qi towards the south. At the same time, around the sea turtle, there were 3 3-meter-long sea snakes swimming around the sea turtle, stirring up waves of water. Lu Qi was Lu Ping. Now that he was in danger, Lu Ping naturally only spoke 30% of the truth. Cultivator Cheng and Cultivator Huang might not be telling the whole truth, but what they said about the situation between the sects and the demons in the North Sea was generally credible. Lu Ping played with the token in his hand and casually put it into his storage ring. At this time, Cultivator Cheng, who had already walked far away, couldn't help but ask a Cultivator Huang, "Brother Huang, that Lu Qi obviously didn't tell the truth, and he didn't even admit to being an alchemist. How could you give young Master AI's identity token to this person just because of a hunger-swallowing pill?" Cultivator Huang smiled and said, "I was just wondering when you would ask such a question. I didn't expect Brother Chung to hold back for so long. This is really beyond my expectations. Cultivator Huang's mockery made Cultivator Chung speechless. Without waiting for him to speak, Cultivator Huang continued, I naturally wouldn't give away the token based on a mere alchemist's guess. Let me ask you, can the two of us capture that sixth-layer blood condensation realm bird alive? Cultivator Chung hesitated for a moment and said, although we can't capture it alive, we can defeat and injure it. If it's too slow, we can also easily kill it. Cultivator Huang nodded and said, that's right. Both of us are sixth-layer blood condensation realm cultivators, and we can't even defeat it if we work together. This person is only a fifth-layer blood condensation realm cultivator, yet he was able to capture it alive without our detection. What kind of terrifying skill does he have? Unconvinced, Cultivator Chung retorted, then perhaps this person has some kind of secret technique to conceal his cultivation. Brother Huang, you should also see that the strength of the essence Qi Wolf smoke above this person's head is not inferior to yours or mine. Moreover, this person was able to avoid our detection. Perhaps he has some kind of powerful magic tool in his hand that allowed him to capture the demon bird. Cultivator Huang smiled and said, if this person concealed his cultivation, then his cultivation is definitely not below ours, so he naturally has the qualifications to be invited. If he relied on some kind of magic tool, then the fact that the magic tool is in his hands naturally counts as his strength. When Cultivator Chung heard Cultivator Huang's explanation, he shrugged helplessly. Clearly, he agreed with Cultivator Huang's explanation. Cultivator Huang continued, recently, the Overturning Seas gang has been running rampant in the demon territory. We are following Young Master AI, but we are not strong enough. This is also why Young Master AI asked us to invite some powerful rogue cultivators to join us. I only hope that Lu Qi can make it in time. When the time comes, he will be a great help. The two of them continued deeper into the demon territory. When Lu Ping returned to his nest, he threw a China root pill to Debao, who was left behind to guard the nest because he didn't like water. At the same time, he shook the spirit beast pouch and threw the heavily injured bird into a corner of the nest. It had been 3 years since Lu Ping broke through to the 4th layer of the blood condensation realm. In fact, 2 years ago, Lu Ping had already used up all the mid-blood condensation pills he had on him. Just as he was about to return to Huangli Island, Lu Ping suddenly remembered the 3 pill recipes he obtained from the Xianling sect disciple he killed in Zhangping's cave on Feiling Island's Sensor Peak. The 3 pill recipes recorded the method to concoct a special type of blood condensation pill. This kind of spirit pellet was commonly referred to as the blood spirit pellet. It was made with the condensed blood bead as the main spirit material and a few common 500-year-old spirit herbs. The condensed blood bead could only be used when a cultivator needed to replenish their bloodline, but it couldn't be used during daily cultivation. Otherwise, it would cause a conflict between the bloodlines and cripple the cultivator's cultivation base. This was a lesson learned by countless senior cultivators. Lu Ping naturally wouldn't risk his cultivation base, even though he often wondered if his special bloodline could overcome the effects of the blood spirit pellet. Lu Ping used the only 3rd-layer condensed blood pearl he had on him to concoct a batch of blood spirit pills for early blood condensation cultivators. Even though he only managed to concoct 4 blood spirit pills, Lu Ping had seen the effects of the blood spirit pill through Lu Dagui. Thus, in the next 2 years, Lu Ping set his sights on the sea region outside the demon territory. That was where the mid-blood condensation demon beasts gathered. Chapter 113. The reason why Lu Ping accepted this mission was not only because he was curious about the buffer zone and the demon territory's waters, but also because Lu Ping's arcane energy had been tempered by more than half in the past 8 months since he returned from Feiling Island. 2 of the 3 condensed blood pearls in his heart core had been refined by Lu Ping using the North Sea Wave listening technique. The last one was about to be completed. Now, the arcane energy in Lu Ping's body was more than twice as pure and thick as before. His blood flowed through his veins under the powerful beating of his heart, ready to burst out at any moment and destroy all obstacles in his way. Lu Ping was very satisfied with his current state. He had spent several months to replace the arcane energy in his body, causing his cultivation to stagnate. But now, he felt that the time spent was worth it. It had been 2 days since Lu Ping entered the buffer zone. The vast sea didn't seem to be bustling with activity because of the large number of cultivators. Lu Ping entered the buffer zone alone as a rogue cultivator. Among the cultivators who entered the buffer zone, there were only a few strong cultivators. Even rogue cultivators had their own teams. In this dangerous place, the cultivators were more cautious than before. They wouldn't carelessly recruit unfamiliar cultivators into their teams. Although Lu Ping met 3 or 4 groups of cultivators in the past 2 days, they all ignored Lu Ping's request to form a team. Some even mocked Lu Ping for his low cultivation, saying that he was a burden to the team and was not qualified to be part of a team. So, Lu Ping was still alone. Only then did Lu Ping remember that after the sea restriction was lifted, cultivators who entered the buffer zone were mostly in the mid and late blood condensation realm. Early and blood-refining realm cultivators could only hunt demonic beasts near the buffer zone. Li Ziming strongly recommended Lu Ping to investigate the bandits in the buffer zone. Lu Ping and Hu Lily did not think of this before. Lu Ping wasn't in a hurry anyway. Although he would run into a few groups of cultivators in the buffer zone every day, he couldn't track the bandits' movements in such a short time. It wasn't easy for him to come out, and there was no one from the sect to supervise him. Naturally, Lu Ping was happy to be at ease. Lu Ping sat cross-legged on Lu Dague's back, allowing Lu Dague to float on the surface of the sea. Lu Dague was the giant sea turtle that Lu Ping found on Failing Island. At that time, this sea turtle was already at the peak of the blood-refining realm. Other than a blood-condensing pill, Lu Ping also obtained an entire bottle of blood-condensing pills from the battle for the cave abode. When Wei Zihong and the others split the loot, Lu Ping purposely took 3 of them. After returning to Huangli Island, Lu Ping instructed Lu Dague to prepare for the blood condensation realm. With the support of sufficient pills and the spirit vein in Huangli Island's cave abode, Lu Dague successfully advanced to the blood condensation realm with 2 blood-condensing pills, becoming Lu Ping's strongest subordinate. Strictly speaking, Lu Dague was just an ordinary sea turtle. Its bloodline was not noble among the demonic beasts. It was not a good choice for a cultivator's spirit beast. However, Lu Ping did not care about this. At the very least, he could use Lu Dague to roam the sea. Lu Dague's huge body moved forward steadily on the surface of the sea. The aura of a blood condensation demonic beast spread out in all directions, and all the blood-refining demonic beasts in the buffer zone disappeared without a trace. Lu Ping sat on Lu Dague's back, holding a wine gourd in his hand and taking sips from it from time to time. He looked at the scenery of the sea with a carefree attitude. The spirit wine in the gourd was the 100 spirits wine that Lu Ping brewed using 108 stalks of 500-year-old spirit herbs, spirit fruits, and spirit grains over half a year. Other than being able to drink to their heart's content, this kind of wine was also beneficial to cultivators' cultivation and the recovery of their spiritual energy. The aroma of the wine permeated the air. Lu Dabeo, who was lying peacefully on Lu Ping's back, finally managed to overcome some of his fear of the sea. Little by little, it inched closer to Lu Ping and stared at the gourd in Lu Ping's hand, drooling. Lu Dabeo was already a 6th-layer blood-refining realm cultivator. As the spirit pet that had followed Lu Ping for the longest time and had the deepest bond with Lu Ping, Lu Dabeo naturally received a lot of care from Lu Ping. Whatever spirit pills Lu Ping used to practice, Lu Dabeo would eat as much as he wanted. That was why Lu Ping's cultivation had advanced by 2 layers in less than a year, and the late-stage blood-refining realm was just around the corner. Looking at Dabeo's naivety, Lu Ping laughed and scolded, "You greedy rat!" However, he still pointed at the gourd, and a ball of wine floated out from the gourd. It changed its shape in the air, but it did not scatter. Instead, it slowly floated in front of Dabeo. Dabeo squeaked at Lu Ping to express its gratitude. Then, it lowered its head and licked the 100 spirits wine that floated in front of its mouth. Right at this moment, 3 water balls smashed toward Dabeo from 3 different directions, and all of them aimed at the 100 spirits wine ball in front of Dabeo's mouth. Dabeo was naturally furious. While squeaking angrily, its slender tail swept a water ball in the air, and its body shook. A cloud of dust flew up and turned into a thin yellow pancake-like cake on the other side of Debeo. The second water ball smashed into it, and water splashed everywhere. When the third water ball was about to smash into the wine that Lu Ping had wrapped with his mana, Debeo's fat body suddenly became extremely nimble. Somehow, it moved its body to protect the wine ball in front of its mouth, and its fat but directly smashed the water ball. Debeo turned a blind eye to it, and just shook its butt to shake off the seawater on it. Then, it continued to eat its wine. It didn't care about the previous sneak attack, as if the wine ball in front of it was more important than the sneak attack. On the surface of the sea not far away, 3 white water lines darted toward the sea turtle at high speed. As the water splashed, 3 green, blue, and white sea snakes, which were a few feet long, leaped up from the surface of the sea and landed on the back of Lu Dague's turtle. These 3 sea snakes were none other than the green sea snakes that Lu Ping hatched half a year ago: Lu Bai, Lu Hai, and Lu Ling. These 3 spirit snakes were indeed monsters with noble bloodlines. In just half a year, under Lu Ping's meticulous nurturing, their cultivation base had actually reached the 3rd layer of blood refining realm. Lu Ping couldn't help but marvel at the excellent aptitudes of these 3 pets. Among Lu Ping's 5 spirit beasts, Dague had the highest cultivation base and the calmest temperament. Normally, it wouldn't play with Debeo and the green sea snakes. Normally, it would just lie down and watch them quietly. Debeo was the most active. Usually, it would jump up and down in the cave and interact with the 3 green sea snakes. However, Lu Ping could tell that Debeo was still very wary of them, or rather, it was very afraid of the bloodline pressure of the 3 spirit snakes. Therefore, it had never provoked the 3 spirit snakes too much. The 3 spirit snakes were hatched by Lu Ping and had been influenced by Lu Ping's aura for a long time. They had long regarded Lu Ping as their parents. Usually, they were also lively and active, and they found fun in pranking Debeo. With a smile, Lu Ping threw the 3 medicinal pills into their mouths and let them play in the sea around Lu Ping. There was not a trace of wind on the calm sea. Lu Ping was originally watching the 3 green sea snakes playing on the surface of the sea with a smile. Suddenly, the 3 spirit snakes disappeared from the surface of the sea at the same time, as if they were hiding from something. Lu Ping's expression changed. He spread out his divine sense, which was more than 600 feet wide. He only sensed that the 3 spirit snakes were swimming quickly in his direction at the bottom of the sea, but he didn't find anything else. Lu Ping's expression turned solemn. Demonic beasts had a natural intuition for danger. The Samling must have discovered the danger. Otherwise, it would not have suddenly returned in his direction. As their master, Lu Ping could faintly feel that kind of anxiety. It seemed that the enemy that had not been discovered was proficient in the art of concealment, but it was not known whether it was a human cultivator or a demonic beast. Lu Ping pretended that nothing had happened and continued to urge Dague to swim forward. Now that Lu Ping had probably fallen into the opponent's ambush, it was probably too late to escape. It was better to beat them at their own game. Fortunately, the other party should not know that they had been discovered by Lu Ping, even if Lu Ping did not know where they were. Lu Ping's heart moved. He remembered that among the North Sea Wave listening secrets, there was an art of sea deception in the North Sea Wave listening secrets. This secret technique talked about the cultivator's concealment and hiding in various environments. At the same time, it also had a strong anti-detection ability for various concealment techniques such as invisibility techniques. As Lu Ping drank, he maintained a calm expression. At the same time, he secretly cast that art of sea deception, using his divine sense to carefully observe the surrounding sea and sky. It could be said that the surrounding area of more than 60 feet was completely visible. Just as Lu Dague moved forward for more than 10 feet, Lu Ping's divine sense finally detected a subtle fluctuation somewhere in the sea. What a brilliant concealment technique! It can hide itself in the sea and become a part of the water, so that the cultivator's divine sense cannot detect it. Fortunately, my divine sense is tyrannical, and the art of sea deception is not the slightest bit under the opponent's concealment technique, So I found some clues. Lu Ping secretly raised his guard. At this time, he detected another slight fluctuation in two other directions. There were actually three people. Lu Ping was shocked. The three people had surrounded Lu Ping in the middle. The reason why Lu Ping could detect them was probably because they were about to make a move and gave themselves away in the water. As the water splashed, three dark blue silhouettes left faint shadows on the surface of the sea like ghosts. Three mid-grade magic tools were positioned in three different directions, completely sealing off Lu Ping's escape route. The three of them formed a formation that was commonly used in battles in the cultivation world, the triple kill, trapping Lu Ping and the five demons firmly on the surface of the sea. Flawless concealment, precise and skillful cooperation, and a thunderous sneak attack. Three mid-blood condensation cultivators. Not to mention a third-layer blood condensation cultivator. Even a late blood condensation cultivator would be injured if he was caught off guard. It was a pity that they met Lu Ping. The moment Lu Ping discovered the three of them, he knew that they had set up a triple kill formation. After all, this formation was the most common one in the cultivation world. It was also the easiest to set up, and its power was also acceptable. At the same time, he also thought of a way to deal with it. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.